Right, hi there. Today we're going to be interviewing Steve Mera. He's perhaps most famous for his online contribution of Phenomenon magazine, which is the largest publication on the internet of alternative information. So first of all, Steve, it's nice to be able to speak to you and to talk to you.
Yes, thank you.
And now, before we start in terms of your interest in the paranormal, I really want to look at your educational background, and this will give us a context for the interview in terms of understanding your interest in phenomenon.
Okay, well, I mean, I started into the subject of really ufology was my first interest,
Right.
which people often ask me, how did that derive? And it came from my father. My
Right.
father was a UFO investigator.
Yeah.
With an organisation for a number of years. And when I was at school, around about the age of 12, 13, most of my friends were reading sort of annual books and comics and things, but my head was in my father's books. I opened up his cupboard downstairs and he had an array of different books from Brad Steiger and UFO books and Eric von Daniken books, and I just was absolutely fascinated.
Can I just ask you a question there? Was there a book which really stood out and really spoke to you and really gave you this...
Chariots of the Gods.
Right, okay, so that was really the starting point.
Chariots of the Gods, yes. That was probably the most significant book I read as a child, because it had pictures.
Yeah.
And as a child, when you're looking at the pictures, I was looking at the NASCAR lines and trying to figure out what is this, and reading a little bit, and it settled on my mind. And then it just grabbed my interest for such a long time, and then I ended up watching television shows like Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, and I'm just fascinated with all the things that I wasn't told, or I didn't know, and I just wanted to learn more. As time went on, after leaving school, I wanted to do more in the field of ufology. But at the same time, I had to think about going to college. And
can I just ask a little bit about your father then?
Yeah.
You said that he was involved in ufology. Was this superficially, or was this actually being actively involved in organisations, lecturing?
He wasn't actively involved. My father came from an engineering background.
Right. Okay.
And he was quite high up with British Telecom.
Yeah.
In telecommunications, and his work took him around the country a lot.
I just have it telecommunications. So, do you think that this could have been derived from information which perhaps was classified, or is it just a general interest that your father was open-minded?
There was an incident that took place when I was a young child, where my father was in charge of the transitioning from analog to digital processing of the telephone systems around the UK. And as you know, we are all digital now, but we were all analog at one time. So these changeovers would take place usually in the early hours of the morning when people aren't on the phones. And there was an incident that took place where, and apparently, a conversation was interrupted between an officer at RAF Sealand talking to somebody else, an official gentleman, in regards something referred to as, which was presumably some type of experimental aircraft, and Black Manta was mentioned, and there was a problem with the switchover, and an interruption took place, which was monitored and targeted down to where it took place at the exchange. And my father was on duty at that time.
Right.
He wasn't responsible for it himself, but he was actually working at the time. And the following day, you could say government men in black turned up, commandeered his boss's office, and questioned him. Under the procedure of questioning was interrogational.
Right. Okay.
You know, the way they stood around and behind him and in place in the middle of the room. They asked what he knew about the conversation. He had no knowledge of anything at this time, because he wasn't involved.
Yeah.
But they asked him about what he knew and what his interests were, and he said, "You won't mind us coming to your house?" And he wasn't allowed to telephone my mother.
Right.
So they placed him in the back of a large, I think it was a Mercedes, dark coloured Mercedes, and a gentleman either side of him sat at the back, and two in the front.
So psychological intimidation.
Psychological intimidation, and they were questioning him all, and they knew exactly where he lived.
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't have to ask the directions.
Well, it's quite interesting because they must have known a lot of the answers to these questions.
Exactly. What was really interesting is that they were on the trip to the house. They were saying to my father, "Just come clean. We want you. You just might as well just tell us what you know, and who would want this information." And he noticed there were little wires around in the car.
Right.
Very cleverly regarded wire. My dad, we knows everything.
Right. Okay.
And he just said, "Well, I don't know anything." And he got to the house. My mother opened the door, mouth the gate, trying to figure what was going on.
Yeah.
My father said, "Just let them in, Diane." And
Yeah.
they came in. He turned the house upside down. They took the phones apart. They looked for bugs. They lifted drawers out, turned them upside down. They went through every room. They went to my father's book collection on UFOs.
Right.
And he lifted them upside down and flicked them out like that. So looking for pieces of paper that might fall out of them.
Yeah.
And the only thing they took away with them was all my father's UFO books.
Right.
And he said, they said, you will be returned in time. Thank you for your cooperation. And that was pretty much the end of it.
Right.
And he was left on his own account to try and get back to work.
Yeah.
Didn't even take him back. He got back there the following day. It turned out a friend of his was the one that was made the slip up of cross-communicating this conversation between these officialdoms about this so-called Black Mantra.
Yeah.
And a woman who was talking to her daughter at the time. And that's how it kind of got logged, and Ministry of Defence must have heard about that, and there was some concerns.
Yeah.
The question is why such a conversation was taking place on unsecured lines is beyond me. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Now, we've all driven past probably RAF Ceiling on the way to Wales occasionally, and it doesn't look much of a facility. Well, back in the day, it was a very prominent facility with an American presence there, Anglo-American place.
Yeah.
And I did some research into Black Mantra, and it suggested that it was an experimental aircraft that might have been flying around.
Right.
And obviously they were quite concerned about this information being out there.
I think some of the bases can be subterranean. I'm not saying for one moment.
Possible.
Yeah.
Possible. My father did eventually get the books back.
Yeah.
So, to have...
Sorry.
To have those incidents take place, he kept his interest in the subject of ufology. I was intrigued then.
Did he ever mention why he had this interest, or was there a defining point? Did he know somebody who'd seen a UFO, or was it just curiosity?
Curiosity.
Right.
He said he generally started with curiosity. He had a very large telescope which would reel out when I was about 9 or 10.
Okay.
Big 6-7 foot thing on wheels would reel it out in the middle of the night, and we'd look at the stars. And
what was his views on politics, for example? Was he a very conventional man and a man of his times, or was he really thinking outside of the box?
No interest in politics whatsoever, my father.
Okay.
No interest in sports, politics, or anything like that. He is a very grounded man.
Yeah.
He still works regularly, 7 days a week in engineering. But his views and opinions were quite matters of fact in regarding the UFO phenomena.
Yeah.
I suppose he was interested from his engineering side point of view, initially.
Yeah.
But then, right back from when I was 2 years old, I vaguely remember sitting on top of a hilltop, looking at the stars at night, and I asked him about that. And he said, "Oh yeah, that was when we took you to Warminster."
Right.
And I was 2 years old, sat on a blanket at night on the top of a hill, looking at the stars with my mother and father, who probably were a little bit hippie in them days.
Right.
But it's kind of... there was no escape for me being involved in this subject. Absolutely no escape.
Yeah. So I think that's quite interesting, that in the sense that your family, by the sounds of it, were very sympathetic to alternative ideas, and that really marked and had an impact upon you.
He did. Yeah. And then, of course, the paranormal didn't... It invaded my life as well at a young age, because my grandmother's house was very much haunted.
Yeah, I was just going to go into this because for you as a person, I'm quite interested if you've ever experienced any unusual activity, experiences which feed in either to the UFO side or to the spiritual side, for example.
So many, Pierre. So many.
Right. Okay.
I mean, if you want to rule out the more recent ones, because I'm involved in the subject.
Yeah. No, I'm
curious. If you're more involved, you tend to witness more.
Yeah.
When I wasn't so much, when I was a child, I had seen multiple UFOs sightings, and it seemed to have been the same throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
And I can't answer the reasons why that is the case.
Are these very diverse, or is this...
Absolutely.
So everything from lights to flying saucers, perhaps?
I've said this to many people, that if they are involved in my life, they will start to see what I'm seeing.
Right. Okay.
And it would seem that, statistically speaking, I see too many UFOs, to be honest.
Right.
So, statistically speaking, I shouldn't see as many as I do. But I do, and I see one about maybe 14, 15 a year.
And I'm just thinking now, does this go back to the fact that other people in your family are experiencing unusual events, or do you think it's because of your research that cognitively that you're drawing this in almost through inference?
My very first sighting was, I think I had one around about 5.
Yeah.
And I can't remember it too well.
Right.
I remember something happening, and my mother saying about the bright lights coming through the window.
Yeah.
And then I was 8 years old playing in the back garden in the summer with an object hung in the sky above the house for over an hour before it moved off silently. It was a disc, absolute disc, shiny. My mother saw it, my father saw it. Now something really strange happened because my father picked up the phone and got in contact with an organisation to report a UFO incident.
Right.
This is when I was 8 years old, so we're going back a long time now.
Yeah.
And the guy that came out was a gentleman called David Rees. The organisation he ran was MAPIT, Manchester Aerial Phenomena Investigation Team.
Ah, okay.
And so by some strange coincidence, and I don't know how this happened because it wasn't something I sought, I ended up taking over MAPIT as a chairman in the 1980s after David had passed away.
So what was the time frame? Around 20 years, would that be? 15?
Yeah, well, MAPIT was formed in 1974.
Right.
So it was one of the 5th longest running organisation in the country. But it was preliminarily just only dealing with the ufological aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
Of course, as time went on, people had interest in the paranormal, so they wanted to keep MAPIT as an acronym.
Yeah.
But just change the wording so it lets people know that we deal with anomalous phenomena.
And how long was you involved with that organisation?
I'm still with MAPIT.
You're still with MAPIT?
Yeah, since 1989.
Right, okay.
So I'm still the chairman.
And have you found that the people who are coming to MAPIT, are they very similar? Are the interests very similar? So, for example, I know with Anthony Beckett, for example, he's extremely interested in light phenomenon as well as ufology and the relationship between, let's say, geomagnetic phenomenon and UFOs, etc. Has that changed? Has there been a shift from the nuts and bolts deconstruction of UFOs to a different type of deconstruction? Or is it just that you have a wide range of people within the organisation?
Initially, under my teachings and learning from mentors and since the early 80s, I was initially taught that the UFO phenomenon is a very nuts and bolts phenomenon.
Yeah.
If you throw something at it, it is it.
Yeah.
It was an extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
In some type of...
Do you subscribe to that idea?
That's massively changed over the years, Pierre. As time's gone on, we find that it's a very possible metaphysical phenomena,
right?
Maybe interdimensional. Sometimes it's apparitional. The paranormal parts of these incidences, psychic ramifications. In one and all, in some cases, in many cases, there are fundamental parts of that case which are intrinsically the same. Absolutely no difference from the field of the paranormal and the ufological.
For example, demonic possession or poltergeist.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. So we are finding that...
are we dealing with a field consciousness here, or is it something much more intrinsic which can materialise and manifest within reality? I mean, for example, I'm thinking about the djinn, in which the djinn are said to be... that their world is separate to our own world, but it's very close to our world.
Yes,
almost like a veil.
Yes.
And that it's possible to enter into that world.
I think we could be dealing with something like that. I mean, we thought, okay, there are elements of the UFO phenomena which would seem, yes, they are physical in nature. They pursue them. They're caught on radar. Yeah. But then there's the opposite side of the coin.
Apparitional
side.
The
apparitional side. 1 minute they're there, next minute they're gone. They phase in, they phase out. In incidents that took place in Scotland, there were incidents where they reported these objects phasing in and phasing out, as if not quite in reality. 1 minute they are, 1 minute they're not.
Yeah.
And it leads me to believe that it's a phenomenon that can be both physical in nature.
Yeah.
and obviously the opposite side.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they have some
And
control over that.
I would agree with that. I think we're dealing with a nuts and bolts reality, and there's no reason why all these different ideas are not interconnected anyway. So, for example, you could have a technological species or being which have deconstructed the physical parameters of reality.
Yes.
And not only just the physical parameters of reality in space, but also the spiritual realm as well.
Yes.
So that where that would play into as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that then the manipulation of the believer or the consciousness of the believer in itself is interesting in terms of the ideas which they're trying to put into people's minds and the inference and the influence that they're trying to...
Yes.
Do you think that there's an agenda there? Or is that reading too much into the phenomenon?
There may be an agenda there. The problematics of it is that it's information overload nowadays.
Yes.
You know, I mean, when I first started in the subject, we didn't have the internet. There was no internet.
Yeah.
You know, a few books, a pen, pad,
yeah.
You know, a big tape recorder.
Yeah, you had to speak to the people. This is another thing as well.
It was an on-hands dealing with people. Yeah. You could say you really are in the field.
Yeah.
The problematics also with that is that when you're investigating UFO phenomena, it's a completely different thing of investigating the paranormal. Ufological, you're likely to be investigating something that's already happened,
right? Okay.
As opposed to something that might happen in the paranormal.
Okay.
So the principles of the investigation process is completely different.
The dynamics are different.
Yes, the dynamics, yeah. But I started reading more and more and more, and I went to the local libraries when I left school, left secondary school, started to go into libraries, completed, exhausted all 18 books in the local library on the subject of UFOs. But I still wanted to know more, and I've never been able to stop learning.
Yeah,
33 years on, and I've got 4 books on the go now. I'm reading. You know, I have to learn.
Out of all these years of experience, are there any cases which really stood out, which you thought, yeah, that's very interesting? Or any cases that you perhaps investigated which stood out?
Well, there's been so many.
Right. Okay.
There's been so many.
Well, perhaps you're right. Yeah.
And for me, it was about learning and what I'm going to do with my life after leaving school.
Yeah.
Naturally, I followed my father's path of engineering.
Okay.
And I
do you
went
think that's
to college.
helped you in terms of research of being grounded?
Absolutely, especially regarding the science side of understanding how certain things work.
Are we talking about electromagnetic phenomena?
We're talking about electromagnetic phenomena, and geomagnetic phenomena as well, things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, at first I just wanted to learn IT. Computers had just come out,
right?
You know, people were talking about the computers. I mean, I had no computers when I was at school. It was a music lesson, you know. I had no computers. Yeah. But then when this suddenly arrived, when somebody came on the scene, I wanted to learn about them.
Sure.
Ended up going to college, doing I think the very first course was something like basic computing on an old BBC or an IBM computer.
Okay, so that would be basic.
Of course, yeah. As time's gone on, I've done my IT level 1, 2, and 3, and sitting girls and things like that. As you require them.
I mean, so you have basics as a software engineer, or is that...
doing little bits like that. I got into the engineering side of them, manufacturing, building.
What kind of things?
Computer systems.
Oh, building circuit boards, or putting them together.
Basically, just putting parts together.
Putting the parts together.
So I kind of understood all about that.
So you're interested in how things are made?
I am, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I used to take things. My father did exactly the same thing as a child. We'd purposely take things apart
and
put them back together. You know, because we just want to learn.
Exactly. And if you do it wrong, then it won't work.
Exactly. You know.
So you know exactly.
Everything. Father always used to say, everything can come apart and be put back together again. Yeah. Everything.
Right.
And I've always kept that in mind. No matter what problems we've had, we fix everything ourselves. Anything breaks down, we fix it. We fix TVs and all sorts. It's only been down to the cost efficiency.
Yeah.
You know, but then I got into electrical engineering quite heavily.
Yeah.
To the point where I went to and worked for GC Electrical.
Okay.
And which was good then at that time because it took me on as like an apprentice role.
Yeah.
I was always learning from them and doing their courses as well.
Right.
And I was with GEC for quite a number of years, and I obtained my degree in electrical engineering.
Right.
I went on from there into electronics and alarm security engineering.
Right.
and then into telecommunications.
Okay.
So most of my life has been spent in that field of work. When I was, I think it was about 29, 30 years ago, I joined the Royal Engineers. And I thought, oh, it's wonderful, I'm going to use my skills and things. But the downside of the Royal Engineers was ended up greasing tank wheels.
Right.
And I just wanted to get more involved, you know.
Right.
I was doing what I really love.
Yeah.
I ended up doing some contract work and working for NATO.
Okay.
RAF Weatherfields in Essex.
Yeah.
I was stationed there in telecommunications. And that is when I was involved in working with certain pieces of equipment, which was at that time, you know, was obviously quite secret.
Yeah.
You know, with contracts with Marconi.
So this really then would have been when the computers were beginning to emerge. And
Yes, and they were dealing with what we refer to as bio boards.
Okay.
And these were circuit boards about so big.
Yeah. And
we had racking systems where they'd hold maybe up to about 300 of them. Of these circuit boards.
Why would they want 300 circuit boards, even by today's standards?
Well,
That's quite amazing.
It was very specific as to what your job is and where you don't go. Compartmentalisation.
Yeah.
Friend of mine, who we worked with every day. I never knew his job, and he never knew mine. And but what was really interesting is that these boards had biological parts on them. Memory cells, liquid memory cells, biological fluids.
Yeah, so very unlike the type of integrated circuits we have today.
I've not even seen anything like it.
Right.
I mean, I expected coming out 27 years ago from NATO.
So we're
expecting to see it.
27 years ago.
Yeah, 27 years ago. I've seen it. I was going to be out within the next 12 months. Still not here.
Right.
Only recently I've been talking about it because IBM released some information that they're actually going to be using it and releasing it.
Right.
And they've been talking about
it's been in the making for
providing a pinhead of plasma biological material that can hold 100 terabytes on the pencil of on the top part of a pencil tip.
Is this the idea of holding information on DNA? Is this similar?
It's all it's all one of the same thing.
Okay.
It's all one of the same.
Right.
And I was involved in that quite. I think Marconi was, and these were activated by satellites in orbit. You didn't even have to get it. Once you plugged them in, it's all integrated. And
I mean, 30 years ago, I guess satellites in orbit was just pie in the sky, virtually, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are satellites which didn't exist, probably.
These were,
classified.
as far as I'm aware, weren't listed.
No, okay.
I am aware that the National Security Agency have got at least 5 or 6, probably even more now.
Yeah.
Satellites in orbit, which are that the size with the antenna span, is about the size of a football field. They are huge, and I know that they have the capabilities of picking up your digital watch in the Amazon jungle. So you know, when planes disappear, it's a bit hard to say that they can't find them.
Yeah, so we're dealing here with surveillance, perhaps, of that nature of technology.
It would seem so. The contracts that I was working with were obviously quite classified and with the materials that they were utilising.
Yeah.
But after some time, you know, they wanted me to expand and go into other countries with that work, and I didn't want to do that.
No.
Really. I didn't want to leave.
Were you working on that circuitry, or you were just aware of it?
I was working on it.
You were actually working on it.
Signed 2 Official Secrets Acts, yeah.
So in a sense, as you learn how to put together a circuit board, with this type of circuitry, is it fundamentally different, or does it work on the same principles, or is it a crossover between?
Well, we didn't
two?
receive so much information in regards
of the workings
of the workings of the. Yeah, we had our level.
Right.
We worked with the boards. We integrated them into the systems, and we monitored them. And
okay, so you would like put together part A, B, and C, but you were never really.
No, not really. I mean, we when we were fitting them, they were complete.
Yeah.
We knew that there were biological parts in there.
What did they look like? Did they look like conventional circuit boards, or were they different?
The microchips on them were like what the microchips you see now.
Okay.
So it wasn't like what you would have seen 30 years ago.
Right, okay, that's interesting in itself.
The microchips, I can remember them. And it's like looking at a computer microchip board now.
Right.
And that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But I remember the liquid plasma cells, which were kind of a pinky colour.
Right.
And they were biological fluids. And they were holding memory. And you started being interestingly looking into water. Does water hold a memory? And
Yeah, Japanese research.
It led me to believe that if we are dealing with biological integrated systems, then that was then. And I assume there's a lot higher security and sensitive information out there in regarding where we are with biological and mechanical electronic systems, is that they probably are integrated into a lot of equipment, aircraft, military complex stuff.
What about being integrated into people as well?
It could be a very possibility. It's surprising probably where they're working, and I think there's definitely a crossover now. I think that some of the things that are maybe flying around now are self-aware, self-replicate, and could fix themselves.
Right.
Don't have to be one-manned, intelligent. And I think we've got to a point where we are hugely advanced in
and
technology.
It's almost trying to keep a lid on it.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like when we look at technology, we're very much here and now. But what you're actually saying is that big difference 30 years ago could even be magnified now. We could be 100 years ahead, 200 years ahead.
I was just a young lad working at NATO. I wasn't working for the National Security Agency. But you think the level of information I had at that time, which would have been sensitive, how much more there could be to know and to learn is quite scary.
And I just think from a philosophical perspective, this idea of this plasma holding memories, that obviously has connotations for cells. If cells can hold memories, then maybe you're not just holding...
Well, that was working application.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it'd been on. I'm only saying I saw it 27 years ago. It could have been around a lot longer, and how long was it in development for? And if that is the case, then if we're going to go back, say, 50 years, you start thinking, well, hang on a second, you start getting round about the 1940s era here. And a lot of the talk about jumps in technology and integrated...
It's about the 1940s, wasn't it, with Roswell, etc. I know with my father was signed up to the Secrets Act, and he claimed that he went to an underground base, and he said that base was being decommissioned in the 60s, but that it had been around since maybe the First World War. And it was massive. He said it was like a city underground. And then what's quite interesting is that he said that he went into a tunnel, which is a standard railways tunnel, but then it diverted, and they went into this, what was an underground city. And he was signed up to the Secrets Act. But he said on top there was a working mine, and that the people who were working underneath, what they would do after whatever they were doing, they would go upstairs or in the lift, they would get dressed as miners, dab themselves in coal dust, and then they would get showers and wash. And so the pretense was it was a working mine, but it wasn't a working mine, it was something else.
The best way to hide anything is in plain sight, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
My father... he was only one of a few people, because of his position in the British Telecom. He worked on the Guardian tunnels, which is under Manchester. It's a tunnel system under Manchester, and extremely high security clearance required to work in there, because the management of communications would be to the Prime Minister and the nuclear facilities around the world, including Bentwaters in 1980. And all those delegates and important officialdoms would have to be in communication if we should go to war, if there's an incident.
There could be an underground railway network that we know nothing about.
It could be. It's huge, vast, complex tunnels that run under Manchester in secret locations where you wouldn't know where they were. And his job was to make sure monitoring the wiring systems in there, because there was a rat problem. Rats like to chew, as they anything, and of course they occasionally chew wires. And what they had and I was 14, 15 at the time, so we're talking a long time ago. They had what is referred to, they only came active at night because there were no people in that location, but they fired lasers at rats. And if there was a movement, they'd fire, and you'd just blow the rats up, because it was so costly to have engineers going down there all the time trying to deal with the problem. And they could never get rid of the problem, the way rats multiply.
And we're dealing here with...
high technology. was again being utilised in the Guardian tunnels.
20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there are also a few. There's some leaked information, photographs on the internet now, and it shows the blast doors. I mean, these things are devised to withstand the nuclear blast. It's huge, like a huge safe door, massive, about 2-3 foot thick. And these tunnels are still there, and they were accessed in 3 or 4 different secret locations.
Yeah.
He worked on that, so he was aware about the Secrets Acts and signing things and working with technology. He was also privy to when HOMEC, the project HOMEC came into force.
What is
HOMEC is Home Office Monitoring of Electronic Communications.
Okay. Right.
And this is long before we had all 9/11 and all this terrorist stuff going on, saying that we have to monitor for those reasons, for terrorist reasons. This was long before. This is when we decided to go from analogue to digital. And that started drifting in the 80s.
And you think that one of the reasons for going digital, obviously it's better technology, but there was a security application.
Absolutely. Monitoring process was huge. And the special team will come in and fix very specialised equipment which you could not touch, and it's locked off in location. Yeah. It was chrome coloured as well. He remembers the teams that came in and fitted it weren't identified on their vehicles or clothing.
Right.
He wasn't allowed. He had to oversight the work, but he wasn't allowed to interact with them, ask questions, talk about what they were doing.
Right.
But he knew what it consisted of. Yeah. It was equipment that locks onto the digital system which monitors the loom of wires in that area. So for instance, a captured area on British Telecom telephones said there's 1,000 in this area. That 1,000 goes to a telephone exchange. Yeah. That's monitored and goes on to the next exchange and so on and so on and so forth. Yeah. Before you know it, you're monitoring the whole country. And that's fed all the way back to Home Office. Yeah. And underneath the Home Office building in London are the usual banks and banks and banks of computers. Right. And their computer systems will recognise certain words when discussing over the phone and go into automatic record. Right. So when we, for instance, pick up the phone and talk to each other, when I might mention the word bomb, and as an example, the recorders, believe it or not, will be recording. Yeah. And then they'll go back and they'll utilise or they'll listen to. You know. That was being put in every single telephone exchange throughout the whole country when it went digital because it was an easier process.
And when was this? Cover timeline? Is it mid-80s?
We're talking mid-80s, yes. Yeah. Right. And my father oversight that, so. He knew what was going on. Yeah, to a degree. So, because of the high amount of work he was involved in regarding sensitive information, it led him into certain areas of working communications.
Otherwise, he would have not even thought about, perhaps.
Probably not.
Yeah. So again, I think that's quite interesting how his work could actually lead into that interest into ufology.
Yeah, and he always kept that. He still does. He still has an interest. You know. Yeah. So after doing all the engineering I could probably do, I wanted to learn about the brain and psychology and how people perceive what they perceive. And
then I think that's interesting in terms of investigation because you have to be able to analyse what the person is saying and how credible that witness is.
Well, I went and did sociology first, assisting girls in sociology. And then I started teaching for a small amount of time science at Sale Grammar School in Cheshire. Yeah. I did that for about 5 years. Got a teacher's certificate in teaching, and then I'm trying to think chronologically. I did psychology. I did pre-degree psychology at South Trafford College in Manchester.
Was the areas of the mind which you specialised on or which you found particularly fascinating?
Perception was always...
Perception.
Belief.
Yeah, so the difference between perception and actuality.
Yes. Yeah, that was a real interesting...
And that can become a very grey area sometimes.
It certainly can, yeah. And it's funny because as you're learning, sometimes new material comes out and you kind of like backwards and forwards.
Trying to integrate the new material.
Yes. Yeah. And I enjoyed that, and then after which I wanted to go further, so I went to Manchester Uni, and I studied my behavioural psychology degree. Okay. I got a 2-1 in that. Didn't do fantastic, but I did it. It was enjoyable, but I was really interested in sections of it.
Behavioural psychology, in terms of the behaviour of the tribe, or we're dealing about interpersonal?
Interpersonal, yeah, a lot of that. And I was fascinated. It was interesting. I wanted to learn how people perceive things, believe, how they would explain and society and social.
Was this driving your research into
the paranormal?
The paranormal.
Yeah, because you can't really get away from the fact it's a psychological process of these paranormal experiences.
Of course,
and after which, that was it then for me. After I did that psychology degree, and I wanted to, how far can you go? And I wanted, what is available in parapsychology? Well, there's this arguments that have always been going on for many years about what's a parapsychology, what's it really consist of. I
mean, is it a science? Because a lot of people would say that it's a pseudoscience. I wouldn't say that for one moment, but there would be obviously.
I think there are parts of it which are, if I have to be honest, I'd say yes. Some of it is, and some of it isn't. There are parts of it.
Yeah.
I was only interested in certain sections which was dependent, which is just about the paranormal, where I could utilise what I had learned in parapsychology and utilise it in the field of the paranormal research. For me, it wasn't about, all the realm of parapsychological work. For me, it was just a part which I could utilise, because this isn't just something I wanted to use. This is something I'm working with. So I wanted to find what I can and utilise it in the field of study I work in, which is principally was paranormal research I was getting into.
In terms of the scientific quality of the research, I mean, is it very good or is it mixed? How would you
it is mixed. Right. I mean, it is also.
You see, the perception of the general public about parapsychology is that it's just a group of amateurs who are just investigating the paranormal.
Well, there are some dedicated experts in the field.
Scientists,
academics and scientists, yes.
Yeah.
But there's a massive divide between those that do research papers and work in universities and those that are in the field.
Okay.
There would seem to be a massive divide, because I've always argued a point: if you're going to investigate an Arctic fox, you investigate in its environment. Otherwise, it'll act differently. Yeah. So taking that out of its environment, placing it in environmental conditions, scientific conditions, you're not going to get the same results. No, I've always argued this point, but it's been this argument backwards and forward. How do they investigate something like that?
Yeah.
If it's not controlled, and how can you obtain the information you really want if it's not the normal habitat of phenomena taking place? That is still going on today. But yes, there are some good points, yes, there are some bad points.
Yeah.
For me, if I wanted to do parapsychology, there is no parapsychology courses in the UK. Right. There are a few in the US. Yeah. It's not recognised as a fundamental study.
It's probably not recognised as a science,
not really, but there are like 6 or 7 modules you can add.
Yeah.
Just modules that you can add onto psychology.
Yeah. Can we have a working definition of parapsychology, or at least the subject areas that are covered within parapsychology?
Well, it varies. It varies between countries. It varies between people's thought. Okay. I mean, somebody who may have studied a science doesn't necessarily have to be psychology. Some places will reference that a science, be it if it's engineering science, electrical science. Psychology, well, that's a good one.
Because I mean, psychology again, is it a humanities or is it a science? There is a.
Well, this is it. This is the problem. It's referencing
social scientists.
Exactly, a social scientist. And then some of them will go on to say they have to submit a paper to become a parapsychologist. That's also a little bit of a grey area. Because there has been sometimes I've been referred to as a parapsychologist, sometimes I've been referred to as a paranormal specialist. Right. To me, it doesn't matter. No. I mean, I just do the work. I don't care what people want to call me. Yeah. People tend to pick names these days as opposed to ignore the work. Let's pick on the person. And I think what's necessary is that people need to look at the body of work and what can be obtained. Yeah. It is a very difficult subject, the field of the paranormal, not like the ufological. It's a difficult subject because...
So you're saying that there is a distinct demarcation between parapsychology and, let's say, ufology? You'd say they're two distinct disciplines?
Yes, absolutely.
Right, okay.
And it can be quite problematic because there's a lot of people that think that parapsychology has to be very academic and you have to bench test something for 10 years before you get a result.
Right.
But what happens when you're out in the field and you've got replicated phenomena taking place, what you're witnessing? What do you do with that critical, vital bit of information?
Yeah.
How do you distribute it? How do you control it? How do you get it out into the right areas? Yeah. And that's become, the delivering of this material is become the problem of this subject.
And this is sometimes like with the filtering of the mind as well, and you've got this subjective element in terms of how the data is actually interpreted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're saying within, let's say, ufology, is that a little bit more concrete? Because if you, let's say, are investigating where a UFO has landed, then maybe you have got some kind of residue or something to examine.
There's physiological phenomena,
right.
Which is always good because it puts it into the realms of the physical world that we truly believe. You know, some of us do. Yeah. And there is it's a lot more easy to investigate UFO.
Yeah.
Type of incidents.
I mean, because obviously you're known for branching both of these areas in terms of primarily you began as a ufologist, and you do describe yourself as a ufologist, but you've also got this parapsychology experience.
It's kind of paranormal specialist, parapsychological research and
I mean, they're very complementary. This is how I look at it. But within, let's say, ufology, is there some antagonism to the parapsychology?
Well, it would seem that it isolates me from other researchers. I've noticed.
Right.
I mean, when I started in ufology, it was quite simple. I'm a ufologist. I'm interested in the unidentified aerial phenomena, unexplained atmospheric phenomena, unexplained space vehicles. Call them whatever you want, wherever they be. Yeah. The terminologies are just terminologies. But as soon as you start getting into the field of the paranormal and start working in that and seeing the significant similarities in many of these cases, the psychic ramifications, the paranormal apparitional phenomena associated in both cases, in both subjects. A lot of the people who my mentors, and there has been quite a number over the years, have a stop line. They don't seem to cross over. They might have some ideas and theories, looked into it, but not really gone into that field. Yeah. And I really wanted to, because I wanted to say, well, hang on a second, I'm not stopping. Yeah. I want to learn more. And if it has to take me into this field to do so, I will do so. Yeah. And it has. And now I feel quite comfortable with being able to balance the two. Yeah. And so, but a lot of people do struggle a little bit.
Have your opinions on ufology, for example, have they changed or matured over the years? How has the evolution occurred?
I found I had a number of experiences which started 3 years ago. Been in this field for 33 years. Right. First investigations in Liverpool in 1983 for UFO sighting. Turned out to be a misidentification, but I was a young lad who wanted to learn. Right. And as time's gone on, I got into the subject of the paranormal. And I've been in the paranormal for a long time. I got a phantom phone call just one day out of the blue in the early 90s about an investigation. Yeah. And it was the Manchester Public Relations Office that rang me. Right. And they said, is it possible we could talk with me about assisting on this particular investigation? So I said, yeah, sure. So I had a meeting with them, and they said they wouldn't tell me the clients at first. Right. 2 clients. And these are business clients. These aren't just 2 people. This is clients as in businesses. Yeah. Okay, and we're dealing with a large building. And basically, I was kind of vetted, to be honest with you. Right. My background, my knowledge, and
just like a job interview, almost.
Yeah, it was, and it was very strange. But this was unaware to me at that time. My first corporate investigation. Right. And they were happy with me, so I took on the case, and it turned out to be for Cortella Properties and the Ministry of Defence regarding one of their buildings, which were having paranormal disturbances to a degree where staff wouldn't work late at night, wouldn't go into certain areas of the building, causing a significant problem for management. Yeah. Went all the way up to the chain. Management couldn't deal with it. They didn't know what it was. Manchester Public Relations got involved and sought my help. We had 36 investigators on that case because it was a 14-floor building. It was huge.
Right, so it's not just on one floor. You were talking about
14. It was an infested location, complete building, and reports from all 14 floors. I got the handover notes, which had gone on for almost 2 years from the security teams, which were round the clock on those buildings, and we can understand the Ministry of Defence building being secure. The handover notes from the security officers, basically they fill out anything that goes on during the night, and the next person comes in the morning, they hand over the notes, and they write ceilings day, and so on and go on. In 2 years of this, absolutely. If that alone could have been released as a book, it would have been absolutely amazing. Right. There were the reports of pursuing people which just seem to disappear,
Right.
and things being moved around, and this audible phenomena, and things being turned on, electrical phenomena, and this went on for 2 years.
Right.
And of course there was an increase when they started to repair parts of the building, because it was getting old. It was getting old. And there was a sudden increase in phenomena which caused these disturbances to take place where staff had witnessed. Now I've always argued the point, well, you know, if you have sometimes tampering, you know, or environmental conditions can change, renovations, alterations. You know,
that does seem to antagonise poltergeist activity, doesn't it?
I believe it changes the environment, the geomagnetics, electromagnetics, causes these spikes to dissipate.
In the Chinese tradition,
it is exactly the same thing. Yeah, it's all these energies. You know, people always say they'll talk about energies. If it's not psychics talking about energies, if it's energies of yin and yang and all these different things. Feng shui, and you know, I think it's all part and parcel. And I think what happened was there was a spike of activity, caused some concern. I was involved, and I ended up, after doing that investigation, it was a confidential corporate investigation. 36 investigators in total on the case.
So you were just one.
I was the lead.
So you were in communication with all the other investigators.
Yes, and out of the 36 who were involved, we had a number of them taken for research.
This is a massive investigation.
Investigation.
And it seems to. Did you say this was the military?
This was the Ministry of Defence.
It's almost. Why would the Ministry of Defence be that interested in what we would define as ghosts?
It wasn't that they would do. What they had was it was a management issue.
Right.
Which was affecting business, work, relationships.
It's costing money.
It's costing money. Staff wouldn't work in locations, wouldn't work at night. You know, we had. It wasn't simply a matter of just up and go and move somewhere else.
Were they asking you to actually to solve the problem? We have this problem and make it disappear. I mean.
I was a little overwhelmed with it, to be honest, at first. You know, it was a very historic building.
Because I mean, they asked you to research the case, but by the sounds of it, they documented the case very well anyway.
Yeah.
So what they were asking you to do was pretty much more of what they'd already done.
Yeah, it was very covert to begin with.
Well, this is what
highly confidential. I mean, the investigators, out of 36, we had about 22 which were active on site.
Right.
And board meetings to be taking place every so many hours.
Yeah.
The duration of the investigation took up maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And in that time, we had to pose as electrical engineers.
Was the nature of this investigation electrical?
Some of it was.
Right. Okay.
Some of it was, but everything was purchased for us: hard hats, belts, with equipment.
Which again,
the staff weren't allowed. Only the staff that knew what we were allowed to was confidential. We had a meeting with those which had witnessed things, and interviewed them, and they were signed affidavits and held to confidential.
Okay.
So even though that they knew that we weren't electrical engineers, they weren't allowed to go and tell. And I assume it probably happened, you know, but they wanted to really keep a lid on this. So we all ended up having to work in the building, like we're electrical engineers. And as far as anybody asked, we were.
Yeah.
But of course what we were actually doing is an on-site evaluation of the electromagnetics, the geomagnetics, with magnetometers, any anomalies we can find. The whole building is built like an antenna, unfortunately.
Okay.
It had these metal rods that driven straight into the ground. Under the building was an old waterway system, like the old canal system from Manchester. Right. Which would have been utilised for marketing.
It's working like divining rods almost.
Absolutely. The whole building was just an immense amount of geomagnetic, electromagnetic energy. Top of that, the way they designed offices and the technical, the man-made electrical phenomena. That was taking place because of the huge amounts of EMF from computer systems and equipment and generators.
Does that aggravate the situation?
Absolutely aggravated. Yeah, I mean, the literally parts of the building need to be completely redesigned.
Were you privy to that in terms of saying that we suggest that you change?
Yes, we drew up plans for that and where the hotspots were, what was necessary for change. There was also the psychological implications of this. This was dealing with the staff. Some placebos were put in place, which we had to try and take control of the situation, and the working environment. Some people who had really profound experiences were relocated to other parts of the building. So it was a matter of management as well of how to deal with this.
Can you talk about the nature of maybe some of these profound experiences?
Yes, yeah. I mean, some people were being plagued by apparitions, pursued. Women were pursued into female toilets, and
by shadows,
by figures. Things were being thrown.
Right.
They were seen quite regularly, apparitions. Security officers would give chase to different, numerous of them. Some of them, perfect.
Did this transfer over into the private life of these individuals, or was
Apparently
it just...
not. It was just a work related. It was seemed to be work related. So in other words, the footprint seemed to be on the land or in the building.
Yeah.
We conducted a huge amount of research.
Was it attracted to individuals, particular individuals, or just anybody? Who
It would seem to manifest itself around certain people which were adversely vexated.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Which is interesting when you start getting into the psychological aspects of people's experiences and how they deal with them.
Yeah.
It would seem that maybe the larger the vexation cycle, is the attraction for the next event, and you kind of end up with
It draws all the interest.
Ongoing.
Is it an outward projection, or is it that something is actually attracted?
Well, I've always
to the
believed.
individual?
I mean, back then I was kind of still even learning still, but
yeah.
from what I've learned now, I've seen there's a relationship and a correlation between those people, our experiences, and the phenomenon itself. Is a coexistence.
Yeah, I
it's
believe
never
so.
one side or the other. It has to be both.
Yeah.
You know. If they're unaware of it or not, and that was the situation. Now we did manage to help a lot with the case. Eventually, it did go public, and it wasn't down to us. I mean, people eventually will talk.
Yeah.
And the press were all over it at that time. We talked with them. They said, "Well, you know, what's done is done." You know.
Yeah.
The building was Sunlight House, and the gentleman that owned it was known as Joe Sunlight, which wasn't his real name. Joseph Sikorski was his real name. He was a Russian. And he wanted
like illumination or the Illuminati.
Exactly, and he wanted to build the biggest skyscraper in the country in Manchester.
Right.
But we stopped him. They stopped him at 14 floors. But he wanted to build a skyscraper. Very Americanized he was, and there was numerous deaths in the building, just pure accidents. One suicide. But we did a huge amount of research, and in fact, his family contacted us a year or two after the case, just to thank us and congratulate us on the amount of research we found.
Right.
Because even they found out some information that they weren't privy to.
So it was really validated.
Yeah. So what happened from doing that case? Somehow I ended up on some type of network.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I ended up. I'm the person to contact.
Yeah.
Should a business company need somebody like me?
Right.
17 years I spent working for corporate companies, businesses, private landlords, tenants associations, worked with the police, the CID, crime units.
We're talking about primarily poltergeist activity.
Not always. In some cases it was profound disappearances. I also worked with...
Profound disappearances? Can you explain that one, please?
I was pulled in by Southampton Police crime unit and CID in regarding an incident that took place in Southampton where a gentleman had disappeared under very strange circumstances.
Yeah.
This was a case which was apparently 7 years old when they came to me with it.
So it was unsolved.
It was unsolved. And I said, well, why do you want to meet with me now and talk about this? And they said, well, we are... the system, everything was going analog into digital. Even the police files had to, which were all typed out at one time. Yeah. If there's a fire, we've got to get them digital. So all that information's got to be processed and put into a computer.
Okay.
So everything, that's what was happening over the country. It's probably happening worldwide, really. Yeah. Through that process, they came across, this is a case. Was it resolved? No, it's still shelved. Do we need to look into what do we do with it? So I think it was just to shed any light I could. And the first question he asked me was, we know about your body of work. I said, right. And he said, have you ever dealt with unusual disappearances? I said, no.
Because I think I have been. No, I'm trying to remember the researcher in the States, the 411 material, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when we say profound disappearances, I mean completely just instantaneously vanish.
Yeah.
We're not talking about people which may have been adversely taken or abducted or something like that.
So tell me a little bit about this case.
Well, I sat there with a coffee and I explained what's the situation. I said I've done some research. All I can tell you is there are also a few reports where there was joggers. One of them, 3 of them jogging through Central Park. It was in 1993, and one of them fell over and just vanished, completely vanished, and that was the report.
Were they jogging together?
Yeah, that's the 2 witnesses with him reported the same thing, but he was never found again. It was all very suspicious, and it was an investigation.
So they were like potential murder, like the Travis case, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But there's spontaneous disappearances, and occasionally a spontaneous arrival. There was a gentleman that apparently turned up in England wearing nothing more than a music composer's suit, didn't speak any English. Yeah. He was an absolute genius, had no knowledge of where he was, wandering down the middle of the road as if looking around as if to bewildered with the world, what he was seeing around him. He never did find out where he came from, but it would seem that he was not in touch with the time of reality we are in now.
You mean this individual almost fell out of a different time?
Exactly. And I was thinking, these are all fascinating cases. I did a bit of research when they told me about it, but I couldn't fundamentally, I've never been involved hands-on in things like this. It's so strange. Tell me about the case, I said. So they told me, and they said, pretty straightforward, man and his wife, just had a child, only a few months old, but a baby boy. Yeah. He was working in a comfortable business. Just got his new company car. Yeah. Within days, it was a big green Rover. Right. And he loved it. And his regular thing was on a Friday night, he'd come home, get some tea, go upstairs, change, and go out. Yeah. His wife would allow him to go out every couple of weeks with friends, for a drink. And this night was really something special because he was taking his car, so he could show it off. Right. So he came in, baby's there, wife's there, had tea, went upstairs. And time was going on, and she was doing the pots, and she was very quiet, and eventually she walked to the bottom of the stairs, thinking, she looked out the window, realised his car's still there. Yeah. She shouted up to him, and there was no reply. Which was a bit strange, so she walked upstairs, and there was no sign of him. No sign of him, his car keys on the side. There was no change of clothing, so he didn't get changed and go out. His shoes are still there. Yeah. Well, he's not gone out in any shoes. I didn't hear him go out. He's not taking his keys. It's all really, really profound. Yeah. So she rang her mum. First thing she did was just kind of rang her mum and said, telling her what happened. And she said, he must have just got out. And she said, well, I don't understand it. Yeah. She said, well, just hang on, he'll let you know. And of course, it never happened. He didn't seem to come back. And by 11:30, she's literally rang through all the family, talking to friends, and she just can't work out where he's gone. Yeah. Over the process of time, the next day there was a police phone call, and there was a put into operation that possible missing persons. They wouldn't accept that now for another 24 hours. Yeah. Then after that, the police sent a female officer out just to take notes in regarding, has there been any problems in the house, have you got any financial difficulties? There was nothing. Yeah. Now this started really getting heating up because this was almost 6 days in now, and CID got involved. Yeah. Because they thought, hang on, there's been an incident, there's been foul play. Yeah. And she was crying, upset, and her family were there supporting her, and they didn't understand, and they just kept grilling her. And it must have been terrible for her because they were asking personal questions about their lives, their finances, and complete background checks were done. Psychological assessments were carried out, and they realised very quickly that there was no information pertaining to anything unusual or criminal that had taken place. Right. No reason to want her to disappear. He's got a baby boy there. Yeah. Great job, new car, and apparently, what happened was some days later. She was in the kitchen with her sister. Yeah. When there was a bang from upstairs, she went to the bottom of the stairs. She shouted up, "Who's up there?" And she heard her husband's voice. It's me. Sort of thing. So she flying up there in disbelief because the first time she disappeared, she just thought he was hanging around and hiding under the bed. And so she was walking around saying, "If you jump out on me, I'll have you." And this, but she went up there and flung her arms round him, crying, and he's like, "What's wrong?" In the same clothes, looking no different than he did apparently 10 days earlier. It's no different. No recollection of where he'd been. In fact, as far as he's concerned, he went upstairs, put his car keys on the side, went to get changed, and his wife was at the bottom of the stairs and said, "Who's up there?"
Right.
So there was obviously mass confusion took place then. Family were around, the police were called
So
again.
it's almost like that there's a time distortion. Perhaps.
Something, yeah, something. Nobody could really put their finger on it. Well, the police were obviously quite upset about this because they're thinking, what's going on? Is this some type of trick or what's going on? They came out and grilled the family. They were actually threatened to prosecute the family because of wasting time.
Yeah.
And they were being sincere. He was so concerned that he had no acknowledgement and accepted the fact that he must have done because he looked at papers and dates and talks and he realised
he was disorientated.
He didn't even believe his wife. He thought he was having a breakdown of some sort.
Right.
And we'd been in touch with the doctors and was going for some scans and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe to find out if he was having he had a tumour or something on his brain and he just did not know. And I said, okay, so why am I here?
Yeah.
He said, because it happened again.
Had he been returned?
Exactly the same. Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same way.
So
in fact,
he was returned 10 days later, approximately.
Apparently, about I think it was 6 weeks later. It's just over 5 weeks later.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. He went upstairs, but something. His wife there was an absence of sound, and she'd thought something straight away.
Right.
She just felt something. She can't explain it. She said. She walked to the bottom of the stairs, she shouted up, she realised there was no response.
Yeah.
She realised straight away, she ran up there, nothing again.
Right.
She was beside herself.
Of course.
Now that was a long time ago.
Right.
And the last report I got was that she had the family help her keep the house because she wasn't working.
Yeah.
He was the provider, the mortgage.
Yeah.
But she was determined she was never going to leave that house in case her husband come back.
Right, so it's a
And
very
she's still there. She's still there now. The boy's 14 years old, 15 years old.
Wow.
He never came back. He never did. But she still refused. She won't move from that house. She thinks her husband's going to come back one day.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's really hard to digest all this information.
Yeah.
It's what is true, what isn't, and stuff.
Yeah.
But I said, look, I'll lend my and I came up with some ideas and research and stuff like that. And provided that was enough information just for them to sort of do something with this case. Not the way it went. And maybe just to process it digitally and have it shelved for another 10 years. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting how I got involved in that case.
I think that's an interesting case. In terms
and then once I'd done that work with CID,
yeah.
I was pulled in on the Susie Lamper case regarding information.
Right, okay.
Which alleged psychics had given. Apparently information that wasn't in the press.
So was you to evaluate the validity of the information?
Exactly, yeah. And some of that information was accurate so much that they reopened the case.
No, that in itself is very interesting.
That was highly confidential.
That's off the record.
I mean, so I can talk about it now, but it was so long ago. But at that time, it was like, oh, let's not go there.
Oh, so they basically said, we've got a case file, but this is actually not your standard case file. This is a psychic case file, and we believe, due to our investigations, that some of this information is matching
we're
up.
implicating
And
themselves.
we want, So is this person involved? Are they implicated? How much of this information can we trust?
Does this person have a footprint of doing this? Is there records? Is there research? And
who was this person who came forward? Or what
it was a lady from Liverpool
right.
who come forward with the information. She'd been delivering her information for a bit of time, but it was just totally ignored.
Yeah.
Until she said something one day, and it struck a chord because they knew that she was correct.
Yeah.
But it wasn't public knowledge.
Right.
And I thought, okay. So then they took an interest in what she was saying and provided a little bit more information. And then the lights went on and started flashing.
I mean, was she having dreams about this? How did she know this?
She was just getting information.
Did she go to the police and say, I think this might help this particular case?
Well, initially she did, but she rang them first,
right.
And then she paid at least one visit because they were very. Well, we're not interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, which you can understand at one level because they're busy in an investigation and.
Well, statistically speaking, she would have been directly involved in the incident of the information given to us.
Yeah.
But it was enough for the police to reopen the case, So, and they did reopen it for quite some time.
Were there any key parts of the evidence that she gave in terms of where the police were? I mean, was it where she'd been murdered?
It would seem from the information given that the police know who did it, but proving it's a different story.
And what she was saying was collaborating what they felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
This is the reason why. I mean, I watch a lot of things on television, and when people, I've done some study in criminological and psychoanalysis and stuff.
And that's probably.
And I've seen a few people on TV
as well because of your
maybe, yeah. Well. I've seen sometimes on television they're interviewing somebody, and I've looked and I said, "Do you know what? The police know he's done it, but they can't prove it, so they won't let him go. They won't keep off him until they prove it."
Yeah.
Because you get guys that go in and they can read information from people's eyes.
Yeah.
You know, the posture, the stance, their attitude to questions,
yeah.
even a dilation of their pupils sometimes.
We're talking about criminal investigators.
Yeah, in that form of analysing psychoanalytically.
You get good at it. You haven't.
You kind of pick up little things.
Yeah. And I guess some people are just very good at doing that.
Some people, which are experts,
they're always
will basically go in and come out and say to the police guys, "He's your man. You did it."
Right.
Well, you need evidence. You can't do that.
You can.
But what they'll do is they'll put the force onto it then.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Right, let's find out everything about this guy. Let's go to every place he's been over the last month." And they did it exactly with this guy who was on television where a missing girl disappeared and was killed and found in a grandmother's cupboard or something.
Right.
Exactly the same thing. And there are guys out there that do this sort of thing. And obviously I think they had their guys go in and see this woman. And she was being sincere.
Yeah.
She was authentic. The information was authentic. She was very sincere. And they realised that she mustn't have had any direct connection with the case, yet she's got this relevant information.
Yeah.
So I was brought in to bring in the validity of her claims. And she did have a bit of a footprint, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
From that, I ended up with working for the police on, believe it or not, big cat sightings.
Right, that's a big jump from one thing to another, isn't it?
All sorts of different things, yeah, but I got into paw print analysis and fur analysis and scat analysis. And yes, they are out there, they are breeding, they are real. It was funny in the 80s because they came out and said alien big cats, and people thought there was something extraterrestrial. And it's just alien to this country, believe it or not. It was really funny that
are they, first of all, are they indigenous to the country, or are we dealing with a species like a puma?
What's probably happened is that it's the government, again, they made a mess of it. I mean, like they do with, you have these amnesties to handing guns.
Yeah.
They really messed up when it comes to the Animal Act, 1976.
Yeah.
But before that, it was no strange sight to see somebody walking down London with a pet tiger.
Right.
Believe it or not, because occasionally it would happen.
It would happen, right.
But then one day, some spark got up and said, "Okay, not the government, it's now illegal to have these exotic pets in the country, and if you're caught with them or have them, you'll be fined." There was no amnesty. People didn't know what to do with them. So my God, what are we going to do with Georgie the snow leopard?
Oh, the crocodile.
Exactly. So they let him go. They took him out to the moors, the countryside, and just let him go. They'll be all right. They'll survive. A bit upset, of course, but we don't want to get caught with that thing. And they bred, because what you don't realise is that these big cats are probably the best animals at surviving.
Yeah.
They adapt so well to all types of weather conditions, eating form. That's it.
They seem to find one another as well,
they
don't
do.
they?
Yeah,
like
they're following train tracks. These are the main things
these
days. So you tend to, or get them in proximity of train tracks. You tend to use those direct paths of.
You mean they walk along them?
They walk along them.
Because it's much easier than...
Yeah, they want to keep out of sight, and that's the best way to keep out of sight.
Yeah.
They're more scared of us than we are them.
And obviously with a train they hear it.
But the downside
is
the publicity that they get, and you got idiots going out there with pellet guns and things, and this, that and the other, and believe it or not, they're scared more than us than we are them.
Yeah.
And they could probably entice someone with them to attack if it was pinned into a corner. I mean, they don't want trouble, these cats, and they are breeding.
Yeah.
And there are quite a number of them, being puma, lynx as well.
Okay.
And people were reporting them, people were seeing them.
Yeah.
One not too far away in Stockport was the last case I did, and this was a female. It was a female puma, fully grown.
Right.
Beautiful animal. Paw print analysis and the analysis of the location. He did 2 bounds. He opened up the curtains of his patio doors one evening after he's got a golden retriever, fully grown, which was growling at the door. And he switched the outside light on, opened the patio curtains, and there it was, sat at his patio, snarled at him. This was about twice the size of his golden retriever. Right, so she's a fully grown. Yeah. And she did 2 bounds. The first bound was 11.5 feet. The second one was just over 12 and over the fence. So in 2 bounds cleared the garden.
Now, I mean, that's
And she was away.
And that would be very possible for a puma. So we are dealing here with...
Oh, she was fully grown female puma, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. The paw prints were maybe about this big.
Okay.
So, we know that they exist.
What do they feed
register.
on? Would it be primarily sheep?
Well, yeah, they'll feed on sheep, anything that they can catch. Right. And what they do is that they'll eat, but they make sure that they don't have to eat so often.
Right.
So sometimes it's hard to find a pattern of events because they can literally walk hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
So you might not connect, or it could be just a fox that's killed that lamb. Right. It could be something else,
So they tend to gorge, and then they don't need to eat for a period of time. And they might be on the, they might walk a few hundred miles.
Quite a few bits of work.
Right.
It's strange what you get involved in.
Yeah.
From that, I ended up working with Woolworths.
Yeah.
Tesco's and Asda and all these different
again,
supermarkets.
Are these ghosts and poltergeist cases?
Yeah. All paranormal related. Booth's supermarket, Mr. Booth, his supermarket in Urmston.
Yeah.
The Woolworths, which is no longer there, unfortunately, now, which was in Burnley, and Tesco's and Asda's and all sorts of different things in Scotland.
I mean, when you get called into a case, let's say with Tesco or Asda, is it just that they want to document this, or is it much more that they really want to get rid of this? What they see.
They don't want. The problem is they can't stop the staff from talking, and that could bring bad press.
Right.
And bad press means damaging to business.
Right.
So it's a matter of trying to get in there and control the situation prior
controlling the situation, and that's what you do. Damage control.
Damage control. We did fire marshal explanations. You see, this is what people don't realise when we put information out over the internet, especially in regards to paranormal.
Yeah.
People probably say, "Oh, it's always a ghost. It's always right," because we don't publicise the rational ones.
Yeah.
I've done about 1,000 cases in 33 years.
Right.
And there's no fun in putting out the rational cases. It's a bit boring. And,
I know.
Somebody misidentified this. Somebody thought it was that, and it wasn't.
Are there many hoaxes in this film?
There's a lot of rational explanations for some of the stuff, especially in paranormal phenomena, because you're dealing with people's belief systems, and pareidolia comes into it.
Pattern recognitions
and belief systems, and then of course there's legends, myths, and tales, and footprints of old. And sometimes there are some incidents that, yes, there are some things that are going on we cannot rationalise. And I've experienced it firsthand on many occasions.
Yeah.
But not so much until
a few
2-3 years ago.
Right.
My whole life changed.
Well, I mean, was there a trigger to that, do you say? Just in terms of what you're researching, or in terms of some kind of experience which triggered that? And a death of a relative, or...
No, it was meeting a gentleman.
Okay.
For the very first time, and I'd become quite sceptical about, even though that I believe that there's possibly people out there that are, if you want to call them psychic mediums or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it was never, how do we bench test it? How do we have to have replication? That means we've got to have it all the time.
I know what you're saying. There's one thing saying that person is a psychic, and there's another thing proving it, isn't it?
It is.
Even if you accept that the phenomenon itself is a real phenomenon.
Exactly. I do accept the fact that, yes, there's something to it, as there is for chi and many other things.
Yeah.
But how do we bench test this and replicate to a point where we can say, okay, let's grab it by the horns and say it exists in our reality? That's difficult.
So this gentleman
never happened.
Met,
came out of the blue with a phone call, a gentleman one day, and he introduced himself. I recognised his name, and he'd been in the field. He's Don Phillips is his name. Okay. He'd been in the field of the paranormal for some years, calls himself a paranormal specialist.
Right, like yourself then?
Yeah, I suppose. We're completely coming from two different ways though. Okay. Mine is pretty much more coming from the science side of things, and his is more the practical... Intuitive
psychic.
Sort of thing, yes.
Okay.
But he claimed that he'd been having experiences since he was 7 years of age, since he had a specific incident took place when he was young.
Yeah.
And since then he's heard, I don't like to label these things, but he says spirits, hears them, communicates, and records them.
Right, okay, interesting.
I thought, okay.
Spirits, as in guardian angels, or does he define it more as a spirit?
Some spirits, some other things as well. So it's quite a combination.
Entities, spirits, djinn, however you want to.
And then he contacted me out of the blue and asked me if I'd do an investigation with him. knowing what he was like, and I looked over the internet, and he had a footprint over the internet.
Yeah.
And I just realised very quickly that he'd put this information out and seen recordings and things like that. And they were too good to believe, to be honest, Pierre.
Right.
I'd spent 33 years in this, well, at that time, 31 years in the study of this. Never come across it in 31 years. What's the chance of this guy being the guy? So, unfortunately, I turned him down.
Right.
I said, look, I don't think so. I don't get involved in that sort of thing. It gets a bit messy.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my own credibility to consider. And about a week or two later, he rang me again and he said, look, he tried to twist me arm. And I said, look, okay. I said, this is how it's going to go, Don. I said, if I don't think I'm the guy that you want, and the reason being is because you know as well as I do, I have upset people.
Yeah.
People on the internet will tell you that because I'll say it as it is.
Yeah.
Don't ask me for my involvement and expect me not to say what I believe I've seen or witnessed, or if I think something hokey is going on, I'll put it out there.
Yeah.
He said, and if I do get involved and I find any of this, Don, won't do you any favours. I will discredit you. He said, I'm not the guy. Honestly, I'm not. And it was his response, Pierre, which was really interesting. He said, Steve, you're exactly the guy I need. And it was that response I thought...
It's quite interesting that as the parapsychologist, you're coming from a position of disbelief almost.
Well...
Or at least caution.
Yeah, I mean, even though I don't work through a department, but my parapsychology research and learnings will tell me that... you can't be careful not your time doesn't get diverted and wasted and expense and all these things in people who are claiming these things when in fact there's some dodgy things going on. Yeah. So I've always been very dubious about trying to get too involved. Yeah. But that was a perfect response and that intrigued me. So I went down. I did go and I said, okay, all right, I'll do it. Right. And he said, great, because I want this opportunity to show you something, demonstrate something. And I said, fantastic. So I went down with a colleague and I said to this colleague, don't get comfortable. Yeah. So it's a 2.5 drive down there, but we're only going to be there an hour. Right. We were there for 15 hours.
15 hours, okay.
And the reason why is because when I went through the front door of this house, I was met with this gentleman. Yeah. He was I thought he was a bit of a quirky guy. I went there to basically destroy him because I thought he was greatness. Because if I go in there, he's got such a footprint over the internet. People are feathering my cap. I've solved it. I know what's going on.
Yeah, it gives you credibility as well because then you come across as being impartial.
Exactly, and that's I didn't tell Don that, of course. No. I was like, that's it. I'm going to have him. And I got there, and the first thing I was met with was a recorder in hand. And he says, "Guys, can you say hello to Steve?" And press 10 seconds on his recorder. And then played back, and a very loud female response came back on the recording and said, "Hello, Steve."
Right.
And I looked at my colleague and I looked at back. So, do that again. Did it again.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. He said, I'm looking at the recorder, Olympus DM670. I know the recording device. Yeah. Okay, all right. One more time, Don. Did it one more time, and I threw in a word. Right at the end, just before he pressed stop. Yeah. So I knew that that recording would be that one because I threw in a phantom word at the end, and he recorded that phantom word as well as a response from an unknown. Okay. So I thought, okay, it's recording live at live time. Yeah. Was this somehow doctored, this device? Can it say anything else? Can you get them to say anything else? And of course, did that.
So you could ask it a question.
Yeah. Well, he said, "Can you say something?" And of course, it changed. All right. My equipment comes out. Get there. I'm having that equipment. My equipment's bench tested, approved. I know mine. It's formatted. Yeah. Do it with that. And he did.
Right, okay.
Well, I've only the environment left. Yeah. You know, I'm running out of options here, Pierre. I've been in this field. I've never seen anything like this. Ever.
Remarkable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I thought, it's got to be the environment. Take them out of the environment. Got to be hidden wires, electronics, something that adversely affects the recordings. Somehow, something's been
I think that's how a rational person would look at that.
Yeah. Take him to an undisclosed location.
Okay.
Middle of the woods, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, there's not going to be any wiring around there. Right. He did it again. Well, that was it then.
Were these always the same voice over?
No, they were varied.
Multiple and different voices.
And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to be honest with you.
Now, does he hear these voices?
He is clairaudient.
Right.
And he is clairsentient. Okay. So he does feel when his energy is and when it's best to record. Yeah. He also hears them sometimes and say, "Do you hear that?" I can't hear anything. So I'm hearing. I said, hang on, what are you hearing? He So I'm hearing two women talking about some dress in conversation. I said, press record. Presses record and plays it back, and you hear two women talking about a dress. And that happens all the time.
And so that doesn't necessarily have to be in context to what you're talking about.
No, they're in conversations themselves.
Jarring,
talking between themselves. In fact, they've had like arguments between themselves, and they're aware of each other. And it's been a crazy ride over the last 2 years.
Right.
That opened up something which completely changed my life, to be honest.
Because it almost imprinted upon yourself.
I didn't think it existed to this magnitude, to be honest. Right. I thought, it might get a little flash in the pan now and again.
Mm. But did you take some of this away with you? Do you think?
Well, so much has happened from then. That was like an introductory.
Right. Baptism of fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
After that, it was like, I need to be around this guy. I need to know more about this. I need to. How is this happening?
Yeah.
And the more I did, the more.
So this became
fantastic.
Full-on intense investigation.
Oh, absolutely, in different locations, and
to
the point where direct voice phenomena came straight out of the air, vocal responses, questions were given, answers were obtained.
Right.
Apparently, remote information was given to us of incidents which hadn't taken place. We were told about events. Let's put it this: told about events which were to take place, and some of those events didn't happen for a further 12 months. We would have had no idea of those events that were going to take place. And we were told prior, over a year before they happened.
Yeah.
Which led me to believe, if there is something that can communicate, then they can transcend time, or they at least know into the near future.
Yeah. Why was you privy to... So, do you think you were given this information because they wanted, let's say, for example, to stop an event, or was it to make you believe? Was it to affect your psychology?
Well, at first I thought it was just kind of random events and stuff, but apparently from what I've been told, it would seem that I was kind of picked to try and deliver that information.
So there is a message behind this, perhaps?
Yeah, but the more the problematics of this is the more I deliver it, the more I become targeted.
And this is interesting.
By the people in the same study.
Yeah, and this is like what Jacques Vallée said in his book Messengers of Deception, wasn't it? That you have this unusual phenomenon, but it seems to be very interested in manipulating and controlling human psychology for reasons which we don't fully comprehend or understand.
It's opened up a world of, well, if that can exist,
what else can exist?
What else could really exist? And how could I have gone through 31 years and not seen this?
Can I just ask you a question then? I mean, once you've come away from this individual and you have your own private life, has this phenomenon manifested itself in other ways? Apparitions, ghosts, hearing,
No, I'm not really.
So it's more around this individual.
It seems to be, even though that, I mean, my process of recording is not very good. You know, I've been into loads of places and used so many different speeds that I couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
That's increased. Okay. I seem to be able to
tap into it as well.
I don't know if it's a bleed over or something who used to be in the vicinity.
Yeah.
But we do some international work.
Yeah.
We went to Seattle.
Right.
Twice this year. Actually, we were in Texas as well this year.
Yeah.
But we had to go to Seattle twice this year on an investigation, which had been on Fox News and newspapers all over the country in America had covered it, and it was quite fast becoming America's most controversial paranormal case.
Right.
In a home which was only 10 years old. TV crew from Ghost Adventures.
So you mean some people are almost saying, how can this be a ghost because this is a new house?
Yeah. And they went in there and said, there's nothing going on, it's all fake. And people were calling Keith, who was living there, and his partner, fraudsters, and this, that, and the other. And because it had so much international recognition, this case, I thought, I want to get involved in this because it's a win-win for me.
Sure. Yeah.
If I solve it, it's a win. If it's something, it's a win.
Yeah, and you make your name in the States as well. I don't think
there really was anything going on there, but poor boy, was there something going on there. And I utilised Don and took him. Now, he doesn't like being called a medium or psychic or sensitive, but he is a catalyst, absolutely. It's like, I don't know what happens when he walks into an environment when there's alleged stuff going on already. He could say it's
magnifies.
absolutely magnified. It was crazy. crazy. I never witnessed some of that stuff in my life, ever. And I came back from the first visit. I had to sleep 3 days. I was suffering from exhaustion.
Right.
Because I was refusing to sleep. Because there was so much things happening.
Yeah.
I couldn't even sleep. I wanted to witness as much as I possibly can in 6 days.
Yeah.
I was getting maybe an hour a day, you know. So I came back with terrible exhaustion, and I was like bedridden for 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
What kind of things were you experiencing, or what did you witness?
We were pursuing things that we couldn't see but could hear. We had unmeasurable equipment which was all triggered.
Yeah.
The vocal responses invaded our recording devices from every level. Every single recording device we had, from the small GoPro cameras to the industrial big film cameras, imprinted sound over them. They tried to work out, it would seem, what type of equipment we're using.
Yeah.
Because the information over the video, you'd get invaded vocal responses trying to work out what it is. Like, they'd be saying, it's a camera, that's a camera. You know, it wasn't a camera, it was a task camera we were using, but they were probably trying to identify it.
Yeah.
And I was saying random things, Irish accents, information, questions, answers to questions.
Yeah.
We had video and photographic anomalies, shadow phenomena.
Right.
It was just full on, absolutely full on. It was like it's just like a horror movie's just come to life, and I'm immersed in this field, and I thought, I've got a pretty level head. Nothing really bothers me too much. I'm not scared of paranormal anymore. I've become numb to it after so many years. People saying, "Oh, there's a demon down there in that damp cellar," and I'll go and spend the night down there, nothing happens. And you kind of become numb to it. And it doesn't bother me. But whilst I was there, I couldn't believe the amount of stuff that was being witnessed. 260 gigabytes of information come back with 427 vocal responses, 3 direct voices out the air, and 27 actual voice recordings to questions, answer question sessions. The second time around, because the first thing was that I said, okay, this is going to be problematic. How the hell am I going to deal with this? Get this out. But I can't go back. I have to go back and think. Oh, that first thing I said to Don was, "You know me, Don. I always say it as it is." And I couldn't deviate from that, even though I wanted to, because I thought, "Oh my God, how are people going to understand this?" And
it's like what you were saying initially. It's just too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
People are not going to
tear strips off me.
But
do you know what? I had to do it because I owed it to Don. Being honest, you know. I always said to him, "I'll always be honest."
And what was the public reception?
Oh God, talk about fed to the wolves. Unbelievable. It was Steve Mera's hanging out with Ghostbuster, and his rational explanations, and his just awful. It was just like fed to the wolves. And I'd never experienced that ever in my life. And I'd been in the subject for a long, long time. And I was really shocked that people are really not ready. And that led me to think, I started to question them and thought, people might think, because we're documenting this for video, and we might utilise it at some stage for some television show, because it is what it is. It's got evidence there. And I thought, if that is the case, people are going to think I've got some invested interest. And I'm in on it.
But then again, it is your work and your research.
Well,
and there's nothing wrong with capitalising on that, because
I understand that.
You have to make.
I didn't want people to think that I might be just in on it, sort of thing. You know? So I thought, okay, I was very choosy who I picked, and I picked the president of the Scottish Society of Psychical Research, Nick Kyle, very well-known guy, very respected, says it as it is. And I said, Nick, would you come to Seattle as an independent observer, because I just don't know where to begin with this, Nick, to be honest with you. I said, you're going to see some things and maybe witness some things that I just don't know. I just need somebody else in my corner, please. You know? And he did. Thank God he did, because, you know, we worked hard when we were over there. And he said to me, Don Phillips, he could only explain him to be some ITC specialist. which is a form of EVP, really, I suppose.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how he does it, but there's no rational explanation. He is what he is. Dog can do it.
Yeah.
The downside is that most of the time, people who do have these wonderful abilities are usually a little bit quirky.
Yeah.
That's probably a downside to it. And he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't do any justice with putting videos out, which he does over the internet, because people look at it and think, I'm not having that, it's too much to swallow.
So you think it needs to be digested for the general public. It needs to be deconstructed.
It does.
And it needs to be analysed.
It really does. And it's got to the point where we decided to create Phenomena Project, which was a television programme.
Yeah.
We're currently done season 1.
Is this a self-funded programme?
It is. We're doing it ourselves, but we're doing it with guys in the field who will, specialists who can deal with
people well known in the field who've read, who've written,
witness it for themselves.
And
it's all because of simply what oscillates around Don Phillips. As simply as that.
Right.
And
when did he find out he had this gift? Was it ever since
7
a child?
years of age?
Okay.
He had an experience which led him to hearing experience.
What kind of experience?
Well, he always told me. There's a lot of information he won't tell me because he always says the same thing that I can't tell you yet.
Right, okay.
So it's just like there's a certain amount of information I'm not going to digest.
Yeah, you're on a need-to-know basis.
I'm on a need-to-know basis, it would seem. But he had an experience when he was 7 years of age, when he was a young boy. He was told, I don't know if it was true or not, but he was told by something, he saw something in his bedroom, it wasn't human.
Right.
But he was told that he died. He had no recollection of anything happening with him. He was told that he died.
Right.
The process of this was...
So it's a near-death experience of types?
Something like that, yeah. But there was something that he was to do, or it was done purposely, or something. Right. I don't understand. All I've done is just write it down.
And I think that's interesting with near-death experience. There is this relationship between the individuals who, when they come back from the other side, they seem to be more intuitive, more psychic. It's a very well documented...
Well, his life changed straight away from hearing these voices. And you talked to his mother. I interviewed his mother. His mother was also... quite gifted.
Can I just ask you a question about the entity? You said that it was a non-human entity. Did he?
I asked him. I asked him. He said, from what I can remember, it was a tall, brown, tall. It wasn't human-looking figure, and I didn't press it.
No.
Because Don's quite good at passing information over to me in his own time. So I don't tend to press. I let him. I tend to get. It's more responsive when I don't press.
Right, okay.
The shutters don't go up.
Yeah.
And since then, he's been having his experiences, and there's one particular, I don't know if you want to refer to as spirit, which he refers to as Becky.
Right.
And she's remarkable. I've heard her come out direct out the air.
Okay.
And when I first heard that, I had the most profound physical feeling I've never had, ever had in my life. It's a feeling that it's hard to explain an emotion when you've only had it once.
Right.
Because you've got no bearing on the other to judge it.
Yeah.
The nearest it cuts to it was probably when my father took me to Liverpool Cathedral on a certain event that took place there. And I walked into this huge building and was just overcome with, I don't know.
Sublime faith.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. When I heard this voice come out of the air, which is assuming what Don said was Becky, it crippled me up a little bit. It almost dropped me to their feet, to be honest with you. And it was like being bowled over by a steamroller.
Yeah.
I've heard vocal things occasionally, but something was significantly different about it.
Did Becky mention you by name or refer to you?
Yes, yeah. But there was a process of apparently how long I had to be involved before that we should even do that.
Right. So do you think that was a sense of validation in terms of all these years that you've really been looking for the Holy Grail, and now to an extent that you've...
I find it hard to digest myself, to be honest.
Right.
It's nothing but bewilderment.
Right.
Sometimes. Just on a simple, something as innocent as I had a phone call from Don one evening, and he said to me, we were just talking, and I asked, can Becky do anything remotely?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I don't know. I said, let's try it.
Right.
He was on the phone, and I said, I'll tell you what, hang on, Don. I said, I'll pick something up and I'll hold it.
Yeah.
I'll wave it around. So you ask Becky to come over to my house.
Right.
I live 150 miles away. Come over to my house, tell me what I'm holding.
Right.
Alright, so I can hear him on the recorder.
Yeah.
Pressing record. You can hear it. And of course, it's over the mobile phone, so I'm not getting it clearly.
Yeah, but you know what he's doing.
I know what he's doing. He's doing the usual.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one to witness this. There's countless people who've been out with us and witnessed the same thing.
Yeah.
And they kind of go, oh my word, you know. And he says, well, I don't really know what she's... as far as I'm aware, she's saying pendulum, Steve.
Right.
And I was sat in bed holding my pocket watch.
Right.
Backwards and forwards. And I just thought, okay,
that's a pendulum.
That's interesting. And when he came here, he sat in my kitchen.
Yeah.
And he went, your kitchen's busy. And I said, well, unbeknown to Don, the reason I live here is because this is a house I came to investigate for paranormal disturbances which were taking place.
Right.
Don didn't know that. Right. And I just never left, you know. But and I've lived here now for like 5 years, so I moved in and new things.
And you're obviously very comfortable with with that.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen any apparitions, or is it just noises and things?
Well, there was some stuff going on here when I first moved in,
right.
You know, but it was low level, really.
Right.
And then about after 2-3 weeks of me living here, they moved out, which is usually the way.
Right.
But Don came in, he went, oh, you've got a busy kitchen.
Right.
And he says, and he gets what he refers to as these buzzers. I said, what's a buzz? And I can physically see it. All his hairs all go up on his arm all of a sudden. And I go, oh, Becky's trying to tell me something. And then I'll reach for his recorder and presses record for 10 seconds, plays back, and there she is.
Right.
So I said, I just had this quirky thing. He said, do you want... he says, his energies are quite good here tonight. He says, do you want to ask Becky anything? Now, there have been many times over the years when people have said, oh, if you'd had the chance to ask a spirit a question, what would you ask? I would have reeled them off.
Yeah.
But what happened is that I realised very quickly that I actually have the opportunity of actually getting the answer.
Yeah.
And I really thought about what do I want to know, to be honest with you, because it's not the realism of it.
Yeah.
So I just threw a quirky one in there, just for fun, just to see it. And I never know if the responses are said quirkily, in joke, in fun, or there's meaning behind them or anything. But I just said, ask Becky, does she know where Area 51 is and what goes on there in those type of places?
Right.
Right, he says. And he did.
Yeah.
And the response came back. It's clear, it's absolute clear as day. The experiment on aliens. Now, that is a quirky response. And I could be joking, of course.
Yeah.
But it was just the fact that I even came back with that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just, what the... How I can't explain this to people. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But we're documenting the hell out of it as much as we can, and we have had some really interesting stuff where we could say parapsychological breakthroughs in regarding the because we've got replication, we've got constant. We can bench test it. Yeah. You know, and that's what science doesn't normally get, and we've got it.
I mean, have you got scientists coming forward saying, well, you know what, I'm quite happy to test this, or are they just running away saying we just don't want to know?
Worse than that, they ignore.
Right.
You know, people who I've corresponded in the past with will totally ignore me. Even though I ask for advice, assistance, support from maybe a parapsychology department, and not even a response back. Very frustrating. Yeah. Very frustrating. It would seem even the media don't want to deal with the information that we've got, have it out in the way we need to have it out in. Yeah. They want to make fun and joke of it, and you know, it's not. This is science. It's very scientific. It's about the facts. The portrayal on it is very poor on the subject. I mean, you know, some information that I obtained from questions was about the afterlife. You know, about heaven and the transition.
Is this a human spirit? Do you have some biographical details of the spirit?
Yes, some we do. Some we have, some we don't.
Shall we go first of all with what she mentioned about the afterlife and then move into...
Well, I mean, I talked about afterlife, about heaven, even though that might not be the word that they use.
Okay.
For her, it was a place where she could transition from there and back.
Right. What, in a physical form?
In her form as she is.
Currently.
But apparently, currently, yes.
Okay.
That does change.
Yeah.
Apparently. And not everybody has that
ability.
I asked about us, do we or go to this location.
Yeah.
The very puzzling. Sometimes we do get puzzling responses. For those that make it, was the reply.
Right.
Did you feel the cold? Yes. Did you sleep? When I get time. There's lots and lots of things.
Right.
Lots of things.
But again,
Is there governance? Yes. What do you call them? Lightertons.
Lightertons.
I can't. No, you might be able to help me on this. I've looked and looked and looked. Lightertons. I don't know how to spell. I maybe have to find further information. But if you ever come across a reference of lightertons, these seem to be beings of light.
Right.
They know and see everything, as she would say.
Omnipotent.
Yeah. But lightertons, what an unusual name. Never come across that anywhere. I've tried to research over the internet. Hell out of it. I can't find nothing at all.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to find nothing, isn't it? I suppose it's usually the opposite way around. But it would seem that sometimes our communications are completely cut short because the invading of something which sounds completely different than the vocal responses that we normally get, which were referred to themselves as beings of light, lightertons.
Well, you see, I'm just thinking about it from the Greek traditions. You have what's known as the Foster, which were the enlightened ones, or the light bringers, but it comes from the etymology of phot, which is light, phos or phot in the Greek. And I see that kind of relationship. I mean, if I was looking at it from the Anglo-Saxon language, liot, I think, is light, and ton would be town. So the town of light beings, maybe, perhaps?
Yeah.
The place where the light beings reside?
It's very clear. We've had those responses more than once where it's actually, we are the lightertons.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a light
being? No, I haven't.
Okay.
All communication stops though straight after they turn up, totally. It was like, there's a governance, you're not allowed to do it, it's naughty, don't do it.
What, the light beings are not allowed to communicate with?
I think they stop communications, any spiritual communications, vocal responses all cease. Nothing after that, after they turn up.
Right, okay.
So I don't know if it's governed by them or they just, they stop, or they put off, further communications at that time. I just really don't know, but that's happened several times. But it would seem to expand into not just realms of the human spirit realm.
We're talking about animal and djinn spirits.
Maybe so, and definitely into probably things of not of this
alien
world. Yeah, and it seems to all be within the same barrel.
I'm fascinated by, let's say, the connection with near-death experience and also non-human entities and what could be defined as the djinn as well, and the daemons, and there is this crossover. And I think that's quite interesting. We were talking about this earlier off camera, weren't we, in terms of you've got this nuts and bolts aspects, let's say, to the UFO phenomenon, but then you've also got this interdimensional element, and it seems that the two themselves are actually very profoundly interconnected, and it's really trying to understand what those seams are and how that is actually put together.
We're trying to prize information. It's long. It's a slow process because the responses are usually short and sweet.
Yeah.
And people often ask, well, why don't we have just long conversations with them? Well, it would seem that they are aware of pockets of energy that you utilise, and they have to make use of it as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So quick answers are always best.
Yeah.
And
so you might get a single answer, then you've got to wait 3 hours for another answer.
Sometimes, yeah. Well, good enough to absolutely say, yeah, that's exactly what it said.
Yeah.
The level of EVPs. I mean, for instance, we had one that was sent over to a specialist in Canada.
Just EVP.
Electronic voice phenomena.
Okay.
We had one recorded and we sent it over to a specialist in Canada. And because I knew what we had, and he got back to me and said he found it very difficult to hear the EVP because this person talking. I said, no, the person talking is the EVP. And he was like, no, you don't get on that level.
You do.
There's no difference between my voice and their voice.
Yeah.
It's never heard of.
Yeah.
But and I've never seen anything like it. Even to the point where Don asking for physical phenomena to take place and things will move.
Right.
But it has to be apparently under the right conditions. Everything's always about conditions, and apparently environmental conditions take effect as well.
So it plays into all of this.
Yeah, it would seem to. But we were asking about the energies. What type of energy is this? Is it measurable? And we're getting little answers, which might be pointing us in a certain direction. So it's a bit of a adventure, really, for me, But believe it or not, though, I am still as grounded as people think. Oh, he's lost the plot. But I am still sceptical.
Yeah.
If I went out on an investigation, I'd still be as sceptical as I normally always be.
Yeah.
But I know what to expect. I know what to expect with Don.
Yeah.
So, but and that's been the situation.
And so that's a new development, really, in your life. And
It has.
Yeah.
Certainly. It's interesting that it's led me into all these different areas. Television, writing for television.
And I tell you what, we can look at the books and then we could maybe talk about the television. This is part 2 of our interview, and today we're interviewing Steve Mera, and we're going to be talking about his books and the various different TV work which he's also completed. So, first of all, I want to ask how you actually got involved in writing.
Writing short, very, very short columns, little columns for like Woman's Own magazine.
Right.
And things like that. And that went into writing columns, stories, and articles then for, well, started with UK at first, and then that stretched into international magazines.
Can I just ask, at this point, and how long ago are we talking about?
About 1995, 1994.
Okay.
I started writing.
And was this primarily about ufology? Was it about psychic phenomenon?
All sorts, really. It
Right.
was basically anything to begin with. Just my little piece that appeared in a very small little section of a magazine.
Was this based on your research or other people's
research? Yeah, my
research. So
research.
primarily your own research?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And that stretched into writing regular columns, and then as a freelance journalist for writing for in lots of different magazines all over the world, newspapers. And I even got involved in writing for television, some stuff for television as well. So.
Documentaries?
Yeah, documentaries. I was always behind the camera initially. Providing information, writing for shows, and one day I ended up in front of the camera instead of behind it, and that took me on a whole different path because
presenting the information.
Initially, it was just simple as being parts of, featured on shows, over 100 different shows now, to actually hosting and acting within shows as well. So
reenactment of actual.
Well, I had to. Yeah, I was acting during. I mean, it was, even though I was playing a paranormal researcher in the series Fright Nights for America. Everything I was saying was scripted.
Yeah.
But it was legitimately what I probably would have been saying anyway, because I did work with me.
Right.
And the last one I'd just done as hosted was a documentary for America, which we filmed in Texas, Livingston, Texas, Georgia, places like that, and that was regarding a conspiracy theory known as Jade Helm. And that was interesting. And we did that.
Could you just explain a little bit about Jade Helm?
Jade Helm is a conspiracy that many people living in Texas believed that their own government was conspiring against taking over Texas and forcibly removing guns from people there, and that they were taking over Walmarts and you're going to use them as processing locations for the public. And
I've got a feeling that there were hints of this in the alternative media in terms of just particularly from America.
Yes. Yeah, and they were quite upset.
So almost like a sinister organisation had taken over the government, or this was a governmental conspiracy.
Well, by all intents and purposes, the actual tests that were carried out and bringing in the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and Marines to conduct this test, to treat Texas as a hostile location, and to even maybe have their officers and army officials dressed in civilian clothing, did actually take place. It did happen.
So we're dealing here with psychological warfare, or at least psychological operations in order
definitely, and it obviously caused some concerns.
Were they looking at the political, sociological climate in terms of?
Well, there's lots of different things. I mean, it does make a good ideal location to conduct those type of tests, because the terrain of certain parts of Texas anyway is very similar to Iraq and other places around the world. However, there are also many people living in Texas which are concerned about their rights to bear arms.
Okay.
And that they may be forcibly taken from them.
Yeah.
And that under certain conditions they may be put in processed plants. And we actually went to one Walmart whilst we were there,
right,
which was up and running, but only a few months prior. It was completely gutted. Surveillance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by police and security teams whilst they gutted the place. They said it was down to damp issues.
Right.
But other people believe that there was some type of things taking place there which looked like a processing plant. So it's kind of like a rerun, how fast can we turn this into a processing plant, should we need to do so.
Oh, you mean like a type of prison or facility?
Yeah, processing. It looked like as if you're trying to go through customs.
Right.
You know, it's like processing people coming through and storing them in locations, keeping them, restricting them.
Yeah.
Some to obviously control over the general public.
Yeah.
And it would seem that they could do so very easily and very quickly, because around about 7 weeks it was all turned back round and back to normal again, and everyone kept reasonably quiet about it.
So some people were saying that this was a theoretical run through.
Yes, absolutely. And it goes as far as the FEMA camps that people talk about.
Right.
And is there a preparation to be able to maintain society for some reason, be it war, be it I don't know, a shift in consciousness, we just don't know.
Yeah.
But something, the fundamentals are there. The important bits have been laid out and constructed. Should whatever happens.
I did see on the internet with lots of photographs of, I think, plastic coffins. And
and traversing thousands of jeeps and tanks by planes and trains through Texas. You know, for storage. I mean, they're just storing them and storing them and storing them up.
Right.
And they're thousands. You know,
and is this still continuing? Or
it's still continuing. Yes, it's still continuing.
And does there seem to be a build-up in terms of...
some people didn't really want to talk too much about what their concerns were.
Right.
There is, even when we were there, we were pressed by just local police authorities.
Right.
You know, they didn't like us even talking to the general public in Livingston.
And that's peculiar.
It was very peculiar, yeah. But there was definitely some general concerns. A lot of them are concerned about what the way the government is, and are they being secretive? Are things going to take place in the near future that they're unaware of and worry about?
Yeah.
And at the same time, there are some which are very patriotic, and our country would never do something like this, and so you really have got that
strong dichotomy between
absolutely
those who were bearing arms.
It was very interesting. We were over there for a while, a couple of weeks, doing some filming. I hosted the show. It did very well. That was in March of this year. So
right. So you've been very busy then.
Yeah, we're working currently on the Phenomena Project, which is a TV series.
Could you explain a little bit about the Phenomena Project?
The Phenomena Project, it's a TV show. It's not a Ghostbusters show or Ghost Hunting show like it's often seen on television for entertainment purposes. Those are most of these ones that we see nowadays. It's about the realistic side of paranormal investigation, on-site analysis, the evidence as how we can treat the evidence, what do we do with it once we obtain it, how is it digested by the general public as well.
Do we have a very broad remit in terms of how we define, let's say, the paranormal?
Well, what we tend to do in this series is break the paranormal down into sections of what we refer to as paranormal mechanics.
Okay.
Be it if it's the aspects of audible phenomena, how's it captured, on what devices,
right,
and is it vocal, is it harmonic, is it something what we refer to as transplacement, which is a new field of study in regarding how audible phenomena could be delivered purposely to selected items or even the individual. And that is really a new area in this science that we're looking into. We're trying to break it down.
So I think we were speaking off camera in terms of sometimes, let's say, spirits or however you want to define this, that they can be recorded on different devices and that their voices can be different on each.
If they are
device.
Spirits, I know people label them. I don't tend to label them because it's always an unknown.
Because labels restrict in terms.
What we can say is, for an absolute, they are intelligent, vocal, clear sounding, responses.
Yeah.
Some to set questions that are given.
Right.
Across numerous devices, which are recording simultaneously at the same time in an environment of complete silence.
Right.
And we will get very different responses from different voices across the recording device at the same time, which would indicate that they're not harmonic because nothing's heard at the time.
Yeah. And can I just check with this? So in terms of, let's say if you asked a simple question like, what is your name? Could you have a situation where whatever this is would give you a name, but perhaps on 3 different devices you might have a male and a female voice?
Yes, on one device we might have a female. The second voice on the next device might be a male, saying something completely different,
right? And
something completely different again on the third.
So that it doesn't always correspond. You can have 3 different answers, almost from like 3 different people or 3 different.
Yes, yeah. Then we have to start thinking. Then, well, who are we directing this to? When we say, is there anybody there?
Yeah,
we have to consider there may be a lot of people there.
Exactly.
So we really do. I mean,
and then again, are you dealing with one consciousness or is it a collective consciousness?
Exactly, it could be. This is it, and this is why this field of study is really important.
Yeah,
because we're really trying to target the methodology of how we think what the paranormal consists of.
Yeah.
For instance, a recording that we got very clear. We asked after that recording was taken, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
And it wasn't even in the location. Miles and miles and miles away. So if you get a recording, does that constitute a haunted location? Not necessarily, because just because you've got something that you've recorded, some people might capture some great EVPs, right? But it doesn't mean that you're capturing it from a haunted location, because apparently it would seem like that can transition from another location, hundreds of miles away, and somehow be in communication with your device.
Yeah.
And that's you have to start thinking. Whoa, hang on a second.
Then you have
we have to start rewriting the book here. On the theories of why we believe a place might be haunted because you might get an EVP in it. Yeah. So
you said hundreds of miles away. Can you remember the location that we'll use the word
America?
Spirit. Right.
Completely different country.
Okay.
Yeah, there have been times when they've been said to be at a certain place with a certain person.
Right.
Even though they're not with us, and yet we're communicating with them.
Yeah.
Are you different? Can't imagine the physics. It's obviously.
You also implied in our conversation off camera that some of these spirits had predictive qualities, that they could see into the future.
Well, there have been a couple of occasions. I can at least remember 3.
Yeah.
When myself and other team members were informed about things to take place in the near future. Yeah. One of those was 40 months away, and it happened exactly as we were told. Yeah. At that time, we just thought it was ridiculous, Yeah. And when it happened, it led me to believe somehow they had the capability of at least seeing into the near future. Yeah. And maybe these paths that we take maybe are a little bit more scratched into the ground as we feel.
More directed, and that would also suggest that some of these entities may also have agendas.
Very possible. But we have been met with what we consider as certain agendas, being kept from certain information until at a certain time.
So they're almost withholding information until it's the right time to relay that information.
That's exactly what it seems to have been over the last 2.5 years. Even though that my acceptance level, I admit my acceptance levels are up here now compared to what it's only simply because of what I've witnessed.
So how is in a sense really recognising that and processing that, how has it changed you? Because obviously you've always had an open mind, but you were dealing with it theoretically, scientifically. And then when you have experiences of where it can't be rationalised, at least using our scientific paradigms at the moment, how did that change you?
Well, the first thing I thought was, I spent 33 years in this field. Yeah. How much of the stuff that I have investigated could really be real? How does one go through 31 years of investigating all sorts of things, never to come across this before, and then for the last 2 years is to be immersed in it so much that it sends you on a head spin.
And we're talking about the voice recordings in particular.
It's the direct voice phenomenon, it's the physical phenomenon. It's the information that's been given to us. I don't know if it's true or not, or who it comes from, but the information that we obtain. It's certainly opened my eyes to a whole world of possibilities. It's absolutely fascinating, you know. But it doesn't change my belief in if I'm religious or not. I mean, I don't say I'm a religious person.
Yeah.
You know, I don't go to church often. I go maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I believe there's something.
Yeah.
I believe religion lies within inside each individual.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be referenced and name tagged and stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There's definitely something.
There's a spiritual component to
yes, absolutely. And it would seem that the blinkers have seemed to have been taken off for the last just over 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm honoured. I'm absolutely honoured to have witnessed and experienced the things I've witnessed. And I have no problems with people not believing that, because I wouldn't have done. I would never believed it. If somebody sat next to me and told me this, I'd say absolute rubbish. Oh. But you've got to, and I understand from any point of view that if you've got to see it and witness it and experience it yourself, just like I did. Yeah. And I have so many times to the point where it's become like a regular occurrence, you know, and acceptance levels do reach up here. And we can talk. I can talk amongst certain people who have experienced that quite well, and but it does isolate you. It does.
So, what is the acceptance level in terms of, well, let's say, have you approached universities, other scientists? What's the
best? I've been very selective, because the first thing I realised is that when I started to put information out is how people associated somehow with these organisations and establishments throughout, not just the UK but over the world. I've deliberately targeted and said some terrible things, usually by use of the internet, which deters you from wanting to actually go forward to talk with this organisation, because there's somebody who's part of that organisation, might not be acting on behalf of it, but they would seem that they turn a blind eye to.
They're not open-minded, and you would expect that they would be more open-minded.
Well,
in
for me, it's about wanting to find out and advance this subject.
Of course.
And people will ring me up, and I will travel 500 miles away. Yeah. At my own expense. Yeah. In my own time. Right. And detrimental to me on many occasions. Yeah. To just try and find out that one step forward is there anything to learn. Yeah. And I expected this coming from these establishments and organisations. Yeah. To say, look, Steve, we're happy to come and do this with you. We'll look into it. We've tried nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, I've sent emails out to people, dedicated researchers and psychologists, parapsychologists throughout the UK. You don't even return messages, calls, nothing. There clearly is no effort to try and help and advance this subject, as far as I'm concerned, within the field of the general public. Yeah. Because this is where the information comes from. Yeah. Without the general public, we wouldn't have any of this. Yeah.
It's because it's evidence-based as well.
I really do want to advance it as much as we can. It seems to become static, since it's been in the same place it has been since the Victorian era. Right. People still talking about there's no evidence of this, there's no evidence of that. Well, they've not been out with me on a Saturday night with Mr. Don Phillips. Yeah. You know, and yet we put information out to these people and say, ask them to come along. Yeah. Come along, witness it, interview us, do what you want. Yeah. Open, whatever you want to do. And nothing comes of it.
But there is a lot of data. I mean, just looking at near-death studies, the data is very well established. The data. I mean,
it is. It is.
And even if you just want to put it down to an hallucination, it's still. Yes. But it's still there, the data. And
it can be as simple as black and white, Pierre. Yeah. It can be, if you look in that direction, it doesn't exist, and if you're doing that one, it's accepted. Yeah. You know, there doesn't seem to be an equilibrium.
Yeah, it's almost like you're in one camp or the other, and the two won't meet in the middle.
I try and stay as scientific as I possibly can.
You try to almost...
Your teachings tell you to be as scientific as you possibly can.
And be neutral.
But then when you experience
an incredible experience,
you've got nowhere to take that and place it.
No, because it's almost miraculous.
It's a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
You know, so something really needs to be fashioned where we've got science and the field work coming together and working together.
Do you think it's made you more open-minded then?
It absolutely has. Right. And I can see the faults in the subject. I can see where we desperately need to change the methodology of how we investigate. Not just the process, but the methodology of how we obtain that information and how it's investigated for us to advance, because we're not going to do it on the old principles and
So not coming to the subject being hypercritical, but just approaching it with an open mind and being neutral.
That's right, yeah.
So you don't have to throw out all the scientific...
oh no, I want to use that.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to utilise. I don't want to use that and ignore this.
Yeah, and not come to the field with any predetermined ideas.
No, I used to be very sceptical. I still am. I mean, I do investigations. You know, I'm always sceptical.
Yeah.
But I can't experience when you experience these things. There's no other way to explain it apart from what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't tag it. I don't reference. I don't give it names.
Yeah.
I just say it as it is.
Yeah.
This is what I've witnessed. These are the conditions. This is how many times it's been replicated. How many times do we have to keep taking people out to see this and them to go away and go, wow, you know, yeah, you're right.
Are you writing a book on this? Are you doing a documentary on this?
Well,
how are you going to correlate this?
Phenomena is everything that we've been doing. Most significant findings and test procedures. For instance, just the one test that were carried out on what we refer to as transient phenomena. Yeah. That means that recording equipment that picks up baby monitors, taxis, radio stations, to some degree. We've even got Olympus is our sponsors for the TV show, and we're using their equipment. Right. And if you want to know about their equipment, you go to the horse's mouth. Yeah. Because they're not going to build a piece of equipment, especially like the Olympus DM670, which is a very, very popular recording device, and used in millions all over the world. And they're not going to devise a piece of equipment to randomly pick up transients left, right and centre. Yeah. They don't want that. It's manufactured also to record human harmonics. Why would we build it to not record human harmonics? Of course. There'd be no point because you can't hear them. Yeah. And we've got, we're going to be dealing with them. We've got plans to go down and go through all this with them and say, look, explain how's this happening, because they'll certainly have their tech guys on to it, I'm sure they will. But when you shield it, 4 layers of foil to shield it, and you get vocal responses on it, and you do exactly the same thing, 4 layers of foil, stick it in a Faraday cage, and you get vocals on it. Yeah. And we do exactly the same thing, put it in a plastic container and seal it underwater, 2 feet of water, and still get vocal responses on it. Right. You start running out of fact. This is no transient. Yeah. Yeah. It would seem like they're directly communication with devices. Yeah. We've done this in front of countless people. We've done it at different locations. It doesn't have to be indoors. It can be outdoors under any circumstances. The variables can be massive. Yeah. So we're not stringent to it has to be like this. And the best thing of all, it's replicatable, and that's what science needs. It needs something replicatable, because anyone can have a one-hit wonder. Yeah. But to deliver it at when they want it, that's a different story. Well, we can do that, and when we do that, that means that we can really start getting somewhere as to achieving, what is the source and how it's happening.
But you can only go so far if the scientists aren't really willing to drink from the water.
That's the frustration of it.
Look at the.
It is, but it was that battle. So what we've got to do is we've got to pretty much ram it down them and say, look, you cannot ignore this. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's down to do they really want the advancement of the science, or are they quite happy status quo? I just really don't know. For me, when I talk to certain people in the subject and they say, well, we've done another PK test last week, or we've done another dream a dream precognition test. Yeah. Which has been going on for years, doing the same thing. I just think, well, I'm sure you could put better use to all your time, rather than going over old ground, doing surveys and tests which have been carried out.
So, with voice phenomenon, how old is this science?
Well, initially it was referred to as instrumental transcommunication.
Right, and what are we dealing about? The 70s, or is it much earlier?
It goes back further than that, really. But the principles of it was people who phantomly recorded. A gentleman who was recording what he thought was birdsong was also picking up whispers, and that became very prominent. People who communicated through radios or televisions, white noise, things like that, and it became to the subject of instrumental transcommunication. And very much through the 60s and 70s, it was picked up and looked into, and there were people that said that they had countless responses of communication with so-called people who had passed away.
So spirits.
Spirits. The more popular theory now, well, the most popular, and it references EVP now, electronic voice phenomena, which is usually captured. People see it all the time on ghost hunting shows, where they're reusing devices to record things. However, it's not about what they're recording; it's how they're recording it. Yeah. Because we don't believe it's the recording equipment. It depends on whose hands it's in.
Yeah.
This is what people are missing.
Some people act as an antennae.
This is it. It would seem so. It would seem that it's not as simple as the device will work exactly the same in everybody's hand, just as the camera will. People have always done the same thing with cameras.
Right.
Some people claim to pick things up, some people never take a good picture of something unusual.
Is there a correlation then between this voice phenomenon and apparitions, spirits, shadow people, light beings, ghosts?
I believe that apparitions can take place. I believe they're very, very rare phenomena. Right. Extremely rare.
So you tend to have one or the other? The person will see things or hear things?
I think we're dealing with probably energies. And to manifest as an apparition, we probably will require a significant amount of energy as opposed to a vocal recording.
Yeah.
And it's always the latter's the easiest, I suppose, the easier option.
But as you suggested, many of these are perhaps non-local anyway.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, we have reached a point where this technological battle's been going on between people capturing on equipment what they presume to be paranormal in origin, and we're trying to analyse those videos and photographs and things, but the people that are creating them, the hoax ones at least, are using equipment sometimes equal or if not better than what we're analysing with. Right. So this technological battle, so it's taking place. So you got to a point where you have to sort of say, okay, we cannot class it as the most significant of evidence. We have to say, okay, it can be collaborated evidence, we can add it, you know, but it can't be the foremost. We need more of them.
But you see, this is, from how I look at this is very ancient, because certainly the Greeks referred to what you're talking about as katotrizomai, which is to look into a looking glass. But in a sense, it's a compound pun, because the word trizo means to chirp like a bird. So the language of the birds is actually talking to the spirits, because it was thought that the birds...
That's what I said before.
Well, like what you were saying before.
Yes,
the spirits sound like birds. Also, there's this relationship with dolphins as well, that the spirits can sound like dolphins. So birds and dolphins are very significant. So I think that this goes back to a tradition which is very, very ancient.
I believe it does. It's probably been going on for a long, long time. Of course, the vocal responses, just through the air, people hearing them, whispers and things, whispers on the wind, and it's those things have been reported long before recording devices came along to record them. So maybe we may have been always dealing with.
How interested do you think the state is in terms of monitoring or looking into this type of phenomenon, in terms of exploiting it?
Serious studies needed to be taking place in the subject. But then there's no point doing a serious subject, do a serious study of that, of the subject of EVP, if you have not got all the parts, all the pieces that will help generate a result. For us, we're lucky because we have a gentleman who seems to be a catalyst. I can't explain else what it could be. Specialist in ITC, communicating with some intelligent vocal responses. And it's recurrent all the time. If that is the case, then that's wonderful for advancements in science and tests and all sorts of things. But if you haven't got that, let's just say for an example, we don't have Don Phillips. How on earth would we begin to do a test like that? Because we'd get nothing all the time. At that point, we'd say, okay, we've done the test so many times, and statistically speaking, due to the results, it would not be worthy to conduct a further test because the results indicate that there's. And
the skeptic's naturally just going to say, well, it's Don Phillips. He's the element, and so it must be fixed or compromise the data in some way.
So we need to find people like him.
I
don't believe they're very far few between. I believe, but I believe there are catalysts. People with certain abilities, maybe.
People from looking at, let's say, remote viewing in the 1970s and research.
Well, because the military focused on trying to locate catalysts, people who had psychic abilities within the army they could utilise, to put
those programs. Do you think that this was maybe done also through, let's say, schools and IQ tests and other...
It could have been. It's very possible that, yes, certainly. I mean, it's assuming indications that, yes, some early tests, especially on young children and in their development.
In the 1970s and 80s, there was a lot of interest in colour blindness and in children, and I'm thinking, is there some kind of correlation?
I think a lot of tests have gone on knowingly to the general public. maybe a lot of tests have gone on in regards the development of humanity and our psychic awareness of this world.
Because this is very ancient. I'm just thinking of, like, in terms of ancient Rome, one of the words for a spy was one who looks into a mirror. So that a spy was somebody who was talking to the spirits, and that fits into remote viewing. So it's very, very old and very ancient. But that then brings up the natural question. Is it just that this knowledge is being rediscovered, or is it that this stream of knowledge has been with us always and it's being passed down?
I believe it's always been with us.
Yeah, you see, this is what I'm inclined to believe, is that the
I think
elite...
people might terminate different things or coin it different things. But I think we'll do one of the same thing, depending on how it's perceived and how it's learned within the life of the community and social how they carry that information on. Because you get cultural divide. But if you actually go back, in terms of they're all talking about probably the same thing, but just in a different way.
I want to now just we've talked a little bit about a little bit of TV work, etc. But I really want to look at the books and the investigations that you've been involved with. So, can we start with your first book?
The first book.
And what was the trigger for you writing that book? Was that an investigation? Was it based on field reports?
The first book basically was, is it possible? I mean, shall I try and write a book? And it was nothing special. It was the A to Z of the unknown.
The A to Z of the unknown. Now that is so it's like a little mini encyclopedia.
It was just a little, very small mini encyclopedia.
And was this everything from poltergeist to aliens?
Yeah, it was alphabetical, and it was just a very. It was devised really for the young kids, really. It was just had more pictures than anything else in. But I worked with Paragon on that. That was my first book.
Did they approach you, or did you approach them?
I approached them,
and
they took up all the.
Did you have a manuscript then, or?
I did. Yeah, I had a manuscript then. It was just a basic A to Z, really, and
aliens,
and
it covered everything you had been interested in.
Yeah, but it was only you were only talking a couple of paragraphs for each section, so it was very very digestible bit of information.
Yeah,
really.
and how did you go about selecting? Do I have the Loch Ness Monster in, or don't I have the Loch Ness Monster in?
It was simply by statistics alone. It was just like what would be the most common thing like reference. A would be aliens, of course.
Yeah.
So that would be definitely. You would have been UFOs.
Yeah.
And we would just go. I'd just go through and say, okay, that's the most prominent thing that comes to mind. That's what I'd use.
Right.
And it did okay. It was quite an interesting little book.
Yeah.
But once I got my teeth into, yes, I can write a book.
Yeah.
My second and third books were very easy because it was accumulative information of my years of investigations.
So a little bit different then perhaps from the first book?
Completely different. A lot easier because I wasn't having to sit down and write something. I'd already had the foot. I thought all the paperwork was there, all the information.
Yeah,
from field reports, case studies, photographs.
Yeah.
And because I've been involved in the field for so long, I had all that information in the filing cabinets.
Right.
So it was just a matter of selecting them.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting. And I only picked out the cases which I couldn't conclude. Right. I never really picked out the cases that had a conclusion that, yes, it's definitely the rational explanation for this and that. Yeah. I just thought, no, I want to specialise only on the cases where that was a bit weird. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
And some of them were quite profound, from investigating, for an example, Sainsbury's car parking in Kent.
Right.
They've called to Sainsbury's because there was one particular car park space where occasionally when people parked in it, they hit something.
Right.
And there was nothing there.
Right.
The damage to the vehicles was clear and contempt because you could see, we had the photographs, you could see the damage to the vehicles, and just by chance alone, people would mention it.
Yeah.
And eventually, it got back to a guy, one of the assistant manager there, who decided to document these things for some time, and it was quite a lot.
Right.
And the photos and the damage, and they were hitting something, but nothing there. And of course, went down there to park in there several times. Never happened to me. So. But they couldn't find a rational explanation, so because there was a worry of it, they put the bottle bin there.
Right.
This big bottle bin sits in that space now.
Right.
Purposely, and they're never going to move that.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking into invisible barriers, invisible walls, and what does that lead me in? I came across a few little bits and bobs in regarding gentry encounters and invisible barriers, and
Fairies
fairy
and
forts and things like that. And what's interesting that the Sainsbury's car park was built over an old Irish pub. Just coincidentally, that was. But I could find no rational explanations for it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting interviewing the people, seeing the photographs of damage to the cars, and I just had no idea what that was, and I couldn't categorise it. I can sort of put it down as an unknown.
Again, I've never heard anything
absolutely
like
unknown. I did not know.
Yeah.
But it went in the book nevertheless. So I just wanted to pick out the ones that were really profound.
And which book did that go into?
That was the second book, which was Strange Happenings. Memoirs of the Paranormal Investigator, and it's like 10 years of profound cases.
Did you investigate also, let's say, more traditional aspects such as poltergeist?
Oh yes, there was UFO cases in there.
UFO cases as well.
Paranormal cases.
So what UFO cases? Because we've been talking a lot about poltergeist. What UFO cases were you involved?
I've been involved in quite a number. I mean, there was probably one of the most significant cases was February of 1998 when there was a radio show on. It was late one night.
Yeah.
I was coming home. I was travelling home, and I saw something in the night sky which looked triangular in origin with red light at each apex corner.
Right.
It was stationary.
Okay.
And I carried on going. I didn't, even though I don't know why I didn't actually stop. I thought,
was this in the 1990s?
Yeah. I mean, I was an investigator. Why didn't I stop and take photos? Or I don't know why. For some reason, I just carried on.
Yeah.
Got home, and I was listening. My partner at that time said, "Oh, there's something on the radio about UFO." I said, "I'm sure I've just seen something." I said,
"Yeah."
And they said that there were students from the local college in Trafford Park in Manchester,
right,
live on the radio show saying about this, talking about this UFO that had been seen that night. And I was really intrigued about this because I've just come through Trafford Park, and this is where I saw this thing.
Right.
I thought, I've seen the same thing, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was triangular and black, red apex light each corner. It wasn't moving, just stationary, no sound. And the following day, I contacted the radio station, and I talked to somebody who I knew there.
Right.
And it turned out that they weren't apparently students at the college. They were, next to the college was the Trafford police station, and it was 3 on-duty police officers.
Right.
Which were posing as students.
Because
they heard the radio on at night, because they had the radio on at night, and they were talking about UFOs
and they did not want
saw
to be in trouble. Yeah.
So they wanted to report it, but they did it that way, off the record. I got hold of the information, managed to find the officers, and wanted to interview the officers. I interviewed one over the phone on 2 occasions, same gentleman. 2 objects that were seen in the sky silently over Lancashire County Cricket Club, which is opposite the college in Trafford Park, and the police station. Then they moved silently over towards Salford, over a place called Courtaulds Chemicals.
Right.
And all the night staff watched them. Now, it was interesting because all the cameras at Courtaulds Chemicals looked down on the cars and the car parks. They're not going to have any pointing up. But he said if one of them was up there, they would have caught 2 triangular objects, silently moving, hovered over Courtaulds Chemicals for a good 12 minutes. People even passing by on Salford Quays dock watched it. People walking dogs, people travelling by in cars.
You see, that makes me think about with UFOs hovering above military installations.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason why the path they took. I don't know why they were over Lancashire County Cricket Club. That was one location. Then they moved off to Courtaulds Chemicals.
Yeah.
And then they moved over to Shell Refinery, which is in Carrington.
Right. And
then off towards Earlham and out of sight. Half the country should have seen these things, but apparently they didn't.
Right.
Which makes it even more interesting. But there were hundreds of witnesses.
Okay.
What's really intriguing was
these big triangles by?
They weren't huge.
Yeah.
Size
of an aircraft.
Size of a large aircraft.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were 2 of them, and they were in very close proximity to each other, just one behind each other.
Yeah.
And when they moved off, they moved off. Shut off. Yeah. But literally 2 minutes away, next location. It was like a stop. And then bang, gone, disappeared, never seen again. And 2 of them together. Now, what was really interesting, I titled this article in the book, Alias Salton Green.
Right.
And the reason being is, is that the police officers were significantly put off from talking to him because 2 people from the Ministry of Defence turned up at each and every one of their homes,
right,
to deter them from talking,
right,
because they hadn't gone through normal protocol. Normal protocol was to report this to their desk sergeant reported to the Ministry of Defence, and so on and so forth. And they hadn't done. They realised they'd gone on radio about it.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't say they were police officers, but they weren't happy about that, and they said that it could be a bit detrimental to your work, to your actual job, your
But
employment.
reporting UFOs as a police officer is detrimental from the...
So he was onto the phone straight to me and said, I don't want to continue talking about this. I said, who's the officer? Who are these guys that turned up? 2 male, dressed smartly, dark suits, showed me credentials from the Ministry of Defence.
Right.
And what were the names? Agent Salt and Agent Green. And hence I called it Alias Salt and Green.
Yeah.
There clearly wasn't, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But neither of them would talk to me any further. But it was a very interesting case I got involved in. And even the radio station were told to keep quiet about it. So we received quite a number of calls. And that was just one of many UFO incidents. But the book consisted of strange, the profound, paranormal, ufological, all sorts of things. Right. And that was over 10 years, my first 10 years of investigating out in the field.
So that was a combination of 10 years of
research. Was, yeah. The third book was another 10 years. Right. And that was referred to as Paranormal Insight, Concise Study of the Paranormal. It was just about paranormal cases I've done. Poltergeist, hauntings.
Demonic or demonic infestation.
Some things a little bit darker, yeah, maybe. Yeah. But it was, again, the pickings of certain paranormal cases which were stuck out to me, in my mind, as quite significant over the following 10 years after. And then that got placed. Again, reports and things were published already in documents.
Were there any cases which stood out for you in that book?
Well, there was a Rochdale poltergeist. But,
right. Is that a different book?
Well, no, I actually wrote a very small article about Rochdale poltergeist. It did become eventually its own book.
Right, okay.
But there was a Rochdale poltergeist case, there was a Heaton Mersey poltergeist case, there was another one where the family were being attacked. It was quite worrying because the gas fire didn't have a safety mechanism on it and it was being turned on. So was the cooker in the kitchen. We had to carpet tape them down. Right. The church did get involved. One of the girls got pushed down the stairs, broke her ankle. It was quite a disturbing case. Yeah. They actually rang me up at 3:30 in the morning. Never forget this. The mother screaming down the phone at 3:30 in the morning. I need your help. Looking over at the clock with my eyes kind of, what time is it? It's 3:30 in the morning. Are you feeling alright? Is alright? No, we're stuck in the front bedroom. I said, well, you stuck? She was a woman who was living with her 2 daughters. Yeah. So she'd seen something come stamping up the staircase after slamming the lounge door so hard that it snapped right down halfway of the door, 27 inches. Right. We measured it, 27 inches. It slammed that door so much, it literally buckled the inside of the door. Right. The plaster shot out from around the side of the door frame. There was a crack up the wall. The sheer amount of energy involved in that must have been tremendous. Caught their attention, looking down the stairs. What the hell was that noise? Seen a figure with no extremities, no feet, no hands. About 6.5 feet tall, stocky built, shadow figure, comes stamping, not walking up, stamping its way up the staircase. Right. Can well imagine they freaked out. Yeah. They actually went into the front bedroom and threw everything against that bedroom door. Everything. Right. And I mean everything. Yeah. To the point where, after adrenaline had set in, that was it, and they'd sorted all that out, and when he realised that, it didn't come through the door, I mean, I don't know what people think, it's a natural intrinsic panic state, isn't it? Yeah. To throw everything up again, even if it's a paranormal thing and it can travel through doors, then, don't feasibly think about that. Yeah. There was cupboards, beds, you name it. She rang me up at 3:30 because she was stuck in the bedroom because she couldn't get out. Right. We're trying to pull the beds away and the doors, and we can't get it open. They've got a cupboard there, and I don't even know how we got it there. Right. Eventually, and I got there, I said, look, just keep at it, because I can't help you. I'm at the front door. It's 5 to 4 in the morning. Yeah. Eventually, she managed to squeeze through and get out, and she came out, opened the front door, put her arms around me, hugged me, crying. Yeah. And I said, look, don't worry, we'll get something done. And we got the church involved. And the church, believe it or not, I mean, I only believe 12% of blessings per house are successful. It tends to be probably more.
Is that your data? Or?
That's our data. It's about, we work out about 12% of them are successful. But that is, dependent on the belief system
of the family.
And placebos that might be used as well. I believe that one can change their own environment, to be honest with you, with their own energies and stuff.
So you're saying that the psychological belief itself of intervention can actually facilitate the removal of the spirit?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We've demonstrated what we refer to as a starving of the phenomena, especially when it comes to poltergeist infestation.
Starving of the phenomena.
It's called starving of the phenomena. It's the vexation cycle. What we tend to believe is that poltergeist, for people that have worked in this field long enough, they will realise there's a pattern of events, especially in poltergeist and hauntings. There is a rule book, and they always tend to follow a rule book. And when you start to identify it, you start to realise, okay, you can get one step ahead here. It would seem that poltergeist infestations they feed on energies, usually stress, emotion, upset. Generated phenomena, purposely, because they do everything on purpose in sight for you to witness these things, because they are very, very resourceful.
So they're trying to almost evoke or generate a response in order to feed off this energy.
Yeah, to create the next response.
So fear would have a certain vibration.
Exactly. So you end up with this vicious cycle going round and round and round. And the idea is to try and get in there, cut it, and say, look, okay, hang on a second. We need to educate the people who are witnessing this to say, look, you are partially responsible for the phenomenon. This is how it works. It's very difficult. You can't tell people not to get upset when seeing something profoundly unusual. But you start to tell them, don't worry, because the people don't tend to get injured in these circumstances. It's more the fear of being injured. Because things have it nearly hit me. It did hit me. You don't want people to move out because there'll be nothing there to drain from. At the end of the day, it's a learning curve. And what happens, is that you educate the witnesses just enough, to reinforce the ideas that if they don't panic so much, and they don't fear it so much, things might just be a bit quieter the next week. And when things are, it reinforces that belief system. And when that reinforces, then they're on their way to causing it to diminish. And we've done that several occasions, kind of getting there and starve the phenomena from feeding from the vexation. And there is these little rule books, so we find that, and that's simply through the process of doing it so much, that you find out little quirky things that happen, like displacement. Object might move, but do people measure it? Measure the movement of how much it moved, because it moved 36.9 inches. 36.9 inches is the same as what the mug moved in the kitchen last night.
Okay.
Mathematics are sometimes involved. Precision. Things balance. Knives standing up on end, you can't balance it. Can't find the physical balancing point of a knife, a butter knife. There it is. There it stands up on its edge. How does it do that? You touch it, blow it, it's down, you'll never get it back up again. They can do things very, very, very precise. These are all parts of the fields of paranormal mechanics.
You see, again, it's the mechanics of consciousness. I know in terms of my own house, and this was for a number of years, I kept hearing somebody walking up the steps, and I was with my wife one evening, and I said to her, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "No, I didn't hear anything at all." And I said, "Oh, sure you did. I just keep hearing this, and I've just been hearing it ever since we'd moved in." And she didn't hear the footsteps, and I'd heard these footsteps, and it had been a constant reoccurrence almost every night since I'd moved in for several years. But once I told her about this, I never heard it again.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
So it's like if it was shared, it was...
So once I told her this, it just disappeared, whatever it was.
It would indicate that the manifestations were just within singular experiences.
I'm not so sure whether because I've seen unusual things in my in my house, like shadow beings and just weird things. So, but again, I find that when I've seen things, there can be a period of intense activity and then nothing for years.
It would seem to be that there does seem to be waves. And I think phenomena rides that, utilises. There's definitely a combination between what energies are required to deliver. Phenomena, whatever it might be, has to be delivered with some type of energy to deliver it, like a battery. And what is it, that battery? Is it natural? Is it something that's man-made? We're not too sure. Maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe sometimes it's down to us. Just as we create earth quarry lights, and geological phenomena, which is down to us because we basically gone into a nice lovely landscape and cut away a chunk for quarrying, which has caused an unnatural energy sources to suddenly erupt from nowhere. And we tend to do things. We have a very disconnecting, from the environmental things around us. We are very disconnected. Where it would seem that earlier civilizations were very much intrinsic with an understanding
living
of
with the land,
living with the land.
Yeah.
And utilising energies maybe in some cases, but I think there seems definitely a correlation between not just paranormal phenomena. Sometimes it can be ufological in nature.
Yeah.
You know that certain places seem to have a high amount of paranormal disturbances as well as ufological.
So you're saying that there's a relationship between poltergeist and UFOs, for example? They could be a crossover between the two.
They could definitely be. I mean, what we've found is that there are psychological ramifications. Psychic ramifications, you know, to both UFO and paranormal phenomena.
Yeah.
People who report apparitions of crafts in the sky, or even apparitions of the grey aliens, whatever.
Yeah.
Is it any different? Is it any different that the paralysis that witnesses experience during the alleged alien abduction phenomena, and at times of paranormal incidents?
Yeah.
It's one of the same.
Yeah.
Now we can always say, well, okay, it's simply can all be wrote off by psychological experiences.
Yeah.
The brain can do this. We can have certain incidents that take place that cause paralysis, sleep paralysis, for example. But these are all triggers within the brain.
Yeah.
Who's to say the phenomena doesn't access those triggers?
Yeah.
Because everything that we see, breathe, hear, touch, listen to,
this
is all this in our heads, all firing in this information.
But this could be, again, a type of field response.
That could be utilised.
But then that begs the question, then is it just a chemical reaction of the brain, that the brain comes into a certain field, and if that's the case, do all brains react in the same way and see the same thing, or do they see
it is
something
interesting when
quite
people
different?
have group experiences.
Yeah.
Because you can't start ruling out them, because we're taught through science that we should not all experience the same way.
And therefore it can be repeated, the experiment, so to speak.
Exactly. So this is where this big area comes available.
Yeah,
and I think,
and
okay,
again,
hang on a second, there's definitely
let's
something
say
going on.
group abductions as well, I think is a particularly interesting field within
It really
ufology.
is. It really is.
And again, let's say the difference in the perception between the individuals, but also the correlations, and trying to understand the subtlety within the data and trying to tease it apart and deconstruct that.
It was so much simpler when everything was UFOs were just nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And a ghost was a dead relative who passed away. You know, I mean, it was so simple. But it would seem like the more nearer you think you're getting, the further away you are becoming.
But do you
because it opens up all these other corridors.
But do you think that sea of change sort of really occurred with, let's say, Jacques Vallée and Keel's work, and then merging between different disciplines?
Absolutely. I think that was the principle. The first, it was great ideas at the time. Wow, I've not really thought of it this way before. And it was like, all right, okay, why shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
You know, why should it be? Why should we expect it to fall under the mechanics of how we think and physics? You know, it could be well away.
Yeah.
And that was really good when people came forward with the first one. Now, there's been a shift. In a lot of theories, even our own organisations within the country, which I learned from, and I had peers who I learned from, that the UFO phenomena is moving away from being a nuts and bolts phenomena. That is definitely maybe multidimensional, metaphysical in nature, and lots of other things that indicate that it does not fall under your normal realm of physical phenomena as we'd expect it to be. Yeah. Just look at the UFOs themselves. If we're talking a transition of time, we use our vehicles. When we look at our vehicles 50 years ago, nothing like the vehicles we've got now.
Yeah.
And 50 years before that, we're on horseback, and we were on that for hundreds of years. Yeah. You know, right back to probably thousands.
Yeah.
What's the phenomena doesn't seem to have changed much in regarding its aspect of how it should be seen in the sky. Now we do have the triangular objects, which seems to be a more common thing since the 1990s, or 80s, late 80s. But then my father always said, well, you know, if it's built to fly through Earth's atmosphere, it's probably created on Earth. You know, if it's something aerodynamic, it's built to defy, you know, to help fly in our atmosphere. So maybe anything that's triangular, maybe out in hours. Yeah. But anything that's not, and we talk about maybe disc-shaped objects and UFOs, flying shields, or whatever we want to call these things, there are thousands of different names. If you go back through time, they seem to be the same thing. So it doesn't seem to be a technological transition here. Yeah. Why have they not? Why have I got a photograph? Yeah. from the Heflin 1957 photograph to one that was taken in Southport in 1998, and the objects are absolutely identical.
Yeah.
And we're talking massive amount of time here. We should have seen transition in the phenomenon, we haven't done.
Yeah.
So what is it? They've reached perfection? Or is it that it just doesn't fall under the realms of, well, let's make it better?
Yeah.
You know, or is it just something that doesn't change with time, as we would expect it to change with time?
Yeah.
They don't think like us, or something's not the same as what we would expect.
And I totally concur with what you're saying, because I know that a lot of researchers would say, well, the UFO is just a modern construct from, let's say, the technological age, and that it's from the 1950s, 1940s, but
Yeah.
I do not concur with that idea.
Not at all. I mean, they were trying to reference it in things of that nature and size and shape.
Yeah.
And shields, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
shields were round. It's called them shields, like
Yeah.
shields. You know, this was long before. I mean, as soon as we started fashioning things round or
Yeah.
dish-shaped or plate
Yeah.
shaped, they got the reference to it because
Because-
they looked.
Exactly, and I think...
That's what we did. We looked at these
Yeah.
things and thought, okay, what's the easiest way? Don't overthink it. This is the problem. People overthink
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Let's look at how do we explain what it is? Well, it looks like that. So let's say it looks like that.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to overthink it and saying,
Yeah.
well, if they've said that, then they may have meant this or they may have meant that. Sometimes it's just the simplest thing.
Yeah, because like in the Judaic traditions, you have the opening wheels, and this is in my own new book, Holographic Culture. I talk about what is essentially the scatological tradition.
Yeah.
And within the scatological tradition, the argument is that this phenomenon has been around for a long, long time, and
I absolutely concur. Yeah.
and this goes back to the classical tradition. The classical tradition is classified, and if you look at the Latin term classical means naval, and the naval tradition is the angelic tradition, because the word malak, an angel, is a malak, a sailor. So the two are interchangeable, and so therefore this idea of crew members of vessels, angelic vessels, they were not only just called angelic vessels, but seed containers.
Yes.
And I think this in
Yes.
itself is interesting, because this feeds into the theory
Yeah.
of panspermia as
It
well.
does. Yeah.
But this is what frustrates me about ufology, and particularly in the field of ancient aliens, is for example, I got an email from someone in India, from a university in India, and he was saying, okay, can you tell me some interesting books which let's say I can go to in terms of mathematics and ancient aliens and all of this. But in terms of ancient aliens, there's nothing which has been written since Van Duyniken, and the problem with Van Duyniken's research is it wasn't academic.
No.
And so,
Right.
philosophically, it's a fascinating book.
Oh, it put the subject on the map.
It put the subject on the map.
Yeah.
So philosophically, it's an interesting book. But that's all we can say about it, is that philosophically, it's an interesting book.
Yes.
It doesn't substantiate or prove that this phenomenon has been reoccurring throughout history, and yet it has.
Of course.
Clearly,
Yeah.
it has.
Oh, yeah.
And it has worldwide. So that.
Which is interesting because how they had shared beliefs. Why should gods come from the sky?
Yeah.
Why should it be gods that came from the sky and helped us with agriculture and living maths and all sorts of different things? Why does the same idea, the same thoughts, come from hundreds of different cultures from all over the world? You know, from all, some of them could coexist at the same time.
And this consistency of belief.
We're not supposed to even know that we lived on a round planet, apparently.
Yeah.
So even though that we have some evidence to suggest that, yes, trading did take place around the globe, but...
Well, again, in the book of Isaiah, God moves around the circle of the earth. So that's pretty clear, isn't it?
It is pretty clear, exactly. Yeah, but it would seem that it's a huge, huge picture, which all is interconnected and related.
What's your idea on, because this is another thing, and this is what I find a little bit frustrating about ufology, or where it's at the moment, and I'm just talking about certain researchers, that there's a tendency to say, well look, the UFOs, they're up there and we're down here. And okay, sometimes there's a crossover. But the way that I look at it, and I certainly look at it from the occult perspective, is that our systems of government, in terms of, and I've been looking at what the ancients referred to as grafted bloodlines, so this idea that the gods actually came down, and that there was a combination between bloodlines which were grafted together.
Yes.
Do you keep an open mind about that?
Absolutely, I do.
Have you looked into that?
Yes, I've looked into that.
Right.
Though there is lots of different information available regarding research into ancient cultures and what they believed, what took place since, hence the Anunnaki, for an example. Then you end up falling into the category of, was the transcribed properly, should we say?
Well, let's
and there's that argument. You fall into arguments like that, and that kind of throws us sabos in the works.
Yes, they was with the Anunnaki, because the Anunnaki, from what I can refer to, were not known as the Anunnaki. They were referred to in the Bible as the Anaki, and the Anaki means gigantic, so which is another translation of the Nephilim, the giants.
Exactly, and it did represent them quite large.
Which were also referred to as the Gibberim, also a giant.
Exactly.
But the word Gibber means
the giants on
giant.
Earth. They definitely. I mean, I believe there is evidence to point that some of these skeletons that have been located are up to 36 feet in length. Different places from around the world. It doesn't get to public knowledge very often. But then the whole theory about how humanity has been around, how long we've been around, that's even all that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Could you go into that then?
Oh, of course. I mean, there has been people who have been well known in archaeology for most of their lives. And unfortunately, just one day happens to pull out a dinosaur bone with a flint arrowhead in it.
Right, okay.
That was the end of their career. They didn't know that day when they went public. But that was the end of their career. And now works in a flower shop. And was once one of the world's leading archaeologists. Is
there fabrication of evidence? And is there an agenda and a conspiracy to conceal this evidence?
It's absolutely. That's why it's fashioned. That you cannot get into archaeology and be recognised for the work that you do within that field in an authoritative manner without assistance from the government, without grants, then that won't have got you.
Because Fred Hoyle, I think astrobiologist and astrophysicist, he argued that a lot of the fossil record had been doctored in order to project this idea of evolution.
Humanity's been around a lot longer.
And so what's your ideas, let's say, on
everything's got to fit. Everything's got to fit. When Darwin came out with this theory that we derived from the apes, I really seriously looked into this. And though I can find, and this is what they always rely on, the Darwinists, is that, we can see the transition in one of these birds. Its bill changed to a cross bill in over 100 years, and this and that. So what? But you show me the evidence where it comes from the apes. Well, it applies across the whole board. Why should it? That's the first problem. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Darwinism does exist. Evolution exists. But it doesn't go... it doesn't fall in pattern across the whole board. If you want to look at apes, if it's all about evolving, this is what Darwin's about. It's all about evolving, getting better to our environment and where we live, society. Then we would suggest, we'd be a lot better than apes would be. And that is not the case. In fact, we're terrible compared to... I mean, just look at our DNA problems, genetic issues in a human. There are thousands more than they are in the apes. Why is that? Why the nails stop growing at a certain level? The hair on the head stops growing. Why do I just keep growing? Why don't we seem to be fashioned for the blind like they are? They can see better in the dark. They can hear, they can smell better, they can swallow and breathe at the same time. They even walk flat-footed, just like alleged Bigfoot does. He's a lucky guy. He didn't fall over very often. How many times do we fall over? We have to walk on two balls of our feet, don't we, and balance all the time.
And if you don't go out with a coat, you freeze to death.
Exactly. We're not fashioned for this planet.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
We've got worse. We've genetically got worse. The strength in them, these animals, apes, 10 times. Our chimpanzee is regularly about 10 to 11 times stronger than a human being. Its bone structure is 10-20% more dense. These animals... they're a lot better equipped for this planet than we are. And yet we've evolved from them. I see devolution there.
Devolution.
Exactly. We've got worse. Absolutely, terribly worse. And if anyone can prove to me that we've derived from the apes, then they're fantastic. I'm not saying evolution don't take place, because it does across some boards, but it would seem to me that, yes, we have some traits of the apes in us. And maybe we were probably... just like cross-pollination takes place between the apes and something else. Hence, hey, guys, the humans are here. What they don't tend to go into is why we've got certain types of humans coexisting at the same time if we all came from the same place. So
we see in the Bible, in the Quran, that talks about the second creation. And I think it's very interesting, let's say in the Quran, where it talks about that man is created within a receptacle from sperm. So, again, this fits into the second creation, which the Greeks talked about as being panspermic. The philosopher... if I remember his name, Anaxander talked about panspermia. So, and again, it's getting a little bit more credibility, let's say, within certain fringes within the scientific community, but it's still not really readily accepted.
Fully accepted. I did 2 shows for the National Geographic, one of which was Wild X-Files, which I was that was nominated for Edinburgh Film Festival Awards in 2008, I think it was.
Yeah.
And one of those episodes I did for them was the panspermia. In regards a globulous thing allegedly falling from the sky.
Yeah.
Some tests were carried out on it, which believed to find extraterrestrial isotopes in there, and things not of a human origin.
Right.
Similar to when people talk about alien implants, and that they're meteoric in nature and they've got isotopes in them that aren't found on this planet.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all a similar thing. And maybe we've got a super bacterial life in space. Sometimes they have meteorites, things passing by, pick them up and traverses them to the ground on planets and can spore life on a planet. There is always that possibility. But we could end up, that is life out there. I mean, like looking through life to say, is there life on that planet millions and millions of light years away, in that dot of ice? When they have to look through a cloud of super bacterial life to do it. It's just ridiculous. But maybe that we're just not at that point yet.
I certainly know from looking at, let's say, from the Quranic perspective, that it talks about that God is the Lord of the worlds, and the use of the word worlds is plural. But again, I think that we tend to look at it, perhaps, if we're looking at it from the spaceman hypotheses, that we're just talking about different planets, which we definitely are, but we could also be talking about, let's say, the spiritual world, for example, as well, and the veil between the spirit and the physical. And then, obviously, you've got...
But have you noticed that these things are being brought together?
They're being gradually brought together.
They are slowly moving together, aren't they, over a period of time? Not everybody's aware of that.
Yeah, but the thing is also is that if you are dealing with advanced beings which have deconstructed the mechanics of reality, and they can time travel and they're outside of time, and I define this type of culture as a holographic culture from Talbot's work. But if that is the case, then you would think that if the spirit exists, then they will have also deconstructed the spirit and the mechanics of the spirit.
Of course, absolutely.
So that, in a sense, would make sense.
Yes, it would. I absolutely agree. But it's very, very difficult to maintain those conversations with stringent researchers.
And the thing is, if we look about, let's say if there is this idea that they're monitoring the planet, but the way that I look at this, and this is just how I think, is that these beings, and I'm sure that they exist, and the proof is there within the historical record, but outside of that, these beings must have sophisticated computers, and I think that this is my opinion, that they're mining human intelligence, and they're interested in emergent systems of evolution, and their computers are so sensitive. This is what I think, is that they can read what an ant is thinking, and they are correlating all of this data, which they are then mining and using in terms of they're essentially. Well, I think that they're trying to remain at the top of the food chain.
I think humanity's biggest mistake is to ever consider the planet Earth as ours.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are many different Earths as well. We must accept that this is a possibility.
I mean, I know this is probably where we live, but it doesn't necessarily... I mean, there definitely seems to be enough evidence to suggest that they certainly have concerns about the Earth. We've seen about thousands of same warnings given over to people who had alleged alien abduction incidents, to the incidents which are happening more and more regular in regarding nuclear warheads and disarming and things like that, and demonstration of power or whatever it be. It seems to be a very fundamental thing, that a message is being given here. People have suggested, are we just in a petri dish? Is planet Earth just a zoo?
What's your opinions on this?
I think they've always been here. I think they have some direct involvement with us humanity.
I think at a very fundamental level, in terms of even how they're actually
it is a very
symbolised.
unique. I have to admit, our planet is rather unique.
Yeah.
But is that simply because we haven't seen others out there, and it's a vast space, isn't it? We are learning that there may be lots of Earth-like planets out there like ours. And it doesn't necessarily mean to have to look. This is, again, we're doing it again. We always look at what we know and not what it could be. We have to look at Earth-type planets to find life. Well, that not necessarily be the case, you know. There's been some information that's been released recently in regarding some of the probes that went to Venus that actually recorded what they believed as forms of life when they landed on Venus. You wouldn't expect life to live there under those conditions.
We're talking about microbial life?
Well, yeah, we're talking about biological life forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, microbiological. So it's all has to fit in within our, you know, what we might accept.
Again, this... Again, those fascinating questions. If life evolves on different planets, is there DNA, and is their DNA similar? So does life evolve very similar, not lots of different planets?
Well, unfortunately, we've only got to what we know to look at, isn't it, as a benchmark.
Yeah.
But sometimes, what if that benchmark is wrong? What if we're missing something?
Yeah.
We already know physics is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even I learned that at school, that even percentages don't work right, you know, because if you apply them to certain things, they don't work.
Okay.
You know, so there's a fundamental problem even in mathematics somewhere. And this is what we're finding. So maybe we can kind of empty the glass and fill it up again to some degree. But I think that's a drip process. And there has been a drip process, as far as I'm aware, regarding how humanity accept the UFO phenomena.
Right.
I think that's been going on since definitely the Roswell days.
Yeah.
You know, look how much is indoctrinated into our lives now. You know, children's television, films,
is that
movies.
Disinformation? Or is there part of the group?
I believe what happened is a little light bulb came on one day, especially after the Roswell incident. No matter what happened or not.
Yeah.
At the time of the Roswell incident, there was respect to some degree of the government and the military. When people said don't talk, they didn't talk.
Yeah.
You go and do that now, they'll tell you where to go.
Yeah.
You know. When people didn't want to spread information, they didn't put information out.
Yeah.
Be everywhere now.
Yeah.
Within seconds on the internet, worldwide. You
Yeah.
get it. YouTube, there it is. Bang, done. There's no respect for the government now. All the other in the military, really.
That sea of change, though, has happened in our parents' lifetime,
Absolutely,
hasn't it?
absolutely. Now, if something was to take place, how would they be saying it? They couldn't. It'd be impossible.
Yeah.
Especially if an object was to come down in a town centre somewhere.
Yeah, but especially if they've been here for thousands of years and part of the government. I mean, this is a different side of the issue.
How do they prepare the public with that? I mean, they can't tell them. They can't just come out, hey, if you're fellow Americans or fellow British people, we have to tell you that they've been here a long time and this is what's happened. Well, there's going to be lots of questions about, well, hang on a second.
We're going to distrust the government even more.
Absolutely. So how do we prepare it? Okay, so let's indoctrinate, slowly but surely indoctrinate them with the idea of the UFOs and alien visitors to the point where we'll have it one day, even if it has to be a screen process through Project Bluebeam and manufacture something.
But do you think this could also translate into things such as body piercing, body tattoos, transgenderism as well, trying to remove the divides between the sexes, making humans almost appear as though they're not human with body markings and body tattoos and scarification.
It can all be done in the same fashion, all the same way.
Because if we break down what it is to be human, in other words, our sexuality, that's what defines us as human beings, and we begin to make that very ambiguous. And let's say with transsexualism and these type of ideas.
There's so much information that if people really know where to look, they will see how the indoctrination process has worked.
Yeah.
Right from it's national on the national curriculum. Yeah. Even in the UK and many other countries, including Australia and other places, that your children must learn under the national curriculum what UFOs and aliens are. Right. Now, if you're putting your child through private tuition in schools, wouldn't you want to ask the question, what's the importance of my child learning that? Yeah. If it's not supposed to be, well, they'll probably say, well, it's part of cultural and social development. Okay. You know, but
when was that inserted into?
Oh, years ago. Right. That was years ago. It was. I mean, they were used to doing it in Australia as well and other countries. Right. And it's there now. The indoctrinating of it. Yeah. Drawings. What are your perceptions of a UFO? They're getting it from. The testing, the results, the public reception, which is a very good way of doing it, so obtaining that information from a vast location, so from schools. Yeah. How much is it effective? Well, it's in the cereals they eat, it's in the clothing that they wear, it's in the things that they watch, touch, see, play with, movies, games, adverts, toys, programs. It's everywhere. Right. You cannot get away from it. If you were to say 50 years ago about an object came down, what? You know, say it now, somebody will go, yeah, okay. You You know, that we're seeing already in that short duration time since the 1940s, that shrug of the shoulders attitude.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if it happens, it happens. Yeah, I kind of expect that. What? I mean, this is just in the space from the 1940s.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to do that for another 50, 60 years, another 100 years.
But I see also how it's changed as well in terms of, let's say, from the Space Brothers of the 1950s to, let's say, now where we're talking about shape-shifting reptiles.
Yes.
That's quite a big
difference,
change.
isn't it?
Yeah. And that's not to say that all of what we're talking about here it doesn't exist, but I just think that that's quite interesting. And what there seems to be is that there are different cultural narratives which are playing out, almost like different programs which are aimed at different parts of the population, and then these are threaded in, imprinted within the population.
Absolutely.
And then it plays out naturally.
It is. So you can imagine coming into a subject, where are we going to be in this subject in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time? How do we inject the new interest into this subject? Because it isn't going to go on forever. I'm not seeing newcomers to this subject. Yeah. I'm not seeing young kids like when I got involved, when I was young, in the teens.
But maybe it's changing as well. I just know that from my own research, that I've been looking at it from an occult perspective, and I think that I could see that the next generation would take this in terms of the occult and the hidden tradition, because in terms of...
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to go that direction.
Yeah, because if you look at, in the occult tradition, the idea that there is this angelic lineage, this alien lineage, which has lived amongst mankind, I refer to this as the parallel society, which comes from this is Plutarch's definition, because he wrote a book called Parallel Lives. Now, it's a very curious time, and when you go into the idea of the parallel lives, what he was talking about was this parallel society, which is very different from, let's say, Dolan, the researcher Dolan, who talks about, on the tip of my tongue,
breakaway civilization.
The breakaway civilization,
thank you. Common one, isn't it?
Yes, the breakaway civilization, but the parallel society coexists. It's side by side. In some respects, it's codependent, and there's an interchange between the information and the knowledge. But this is esoteric. So therefore you've got human knowledge, and then you've got this angelic alien knowledge.
Yes.
And the two actually coexist side by side. Let's say is encoded within the government. Gubernatio is to steer a vessel or a boat, which goes back to the classical lineage, the angelic lineage. And so that's where I see where ufology would go to. But then that takes us from, no, it's not that they're in the sky, but they're here living amongst us, and I've been here.
I think there's certainly the mysticism of ufology is diminished, because initially the interest for most people was, hey, they're visiting us. We've got visitors coming from other places coming to visit us here. Entering this subject now, with all the information that's available in regarding the subject of ufology, it's just too overwhelming.
It's disorientating.
Of course it is. I do have concerns about all the subjects of ufology, because I'm not seeing a new injection of who's going to replace us in 30 years' time. Do we even need replacing it? Or will we have more of a... Is it just as this is the natural transition, that we don't need it because we know it intrinsically, and that we should rely upon that as our senses as opposed to the facts?
I think we're going to see more deconstruction of linguistic, mathematical symbolism, which is going to tell us an awful lot about the agenda, why they're here, what they're doing. So I see that that's where the next research will lead, because
we don't have to be... It's not just a ufologist really anymore. I think the word ufologist is kind of just...
Is it obsolete?
Oh, it's just... The word is, because it's not just ufology, is it really, anymore?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. And I think it's a struggle to spend the amount of years I have, and other people in this subject,
we'll just call it
friends...
olology or something.
Yeah, to say, oh no, it's impressing in on my ufology. I don't accept that. They just want to keep this section clean.
But you see, I don't see why there isn't enough room to have the spiritual component and the space aliens.
There is.
I don't see that they're
if they're quite
incompatible.
happy to be able to take it on board.
Yeah.
I've done it constantly for over a year, but I think somebody who's been restricted in this particular field does only, and then suddenly is all this, it might be a little bit too...
But why wouldn't space aliens be interested in the spirit? And why, if they can deconstruct the physical mechanics of time travel and space travel, why wouldn't they deconstruct the mechanics of the spirit? That would make sense to me.
It would certainly make
sense.
And then
that understands why people who have near-death experiences don't always see human entities.
No.
And so you have that crossover instantly.
Yes, right.
Because some of... If they have soul technology, and if some of what we're talking about is non-local, I know that in terms of, let's say, within the Oracle centres, they imagined or envisaged that the oracle was tied to a naval vessel, which is an angelic vessel, but by their navel.
Yes.
So the word navy and naval are interconnected.
That's right, yes.
But this is because of the bloodline, which was considered to be a grafted bloodline.
Which funny
was
enough,
human
just
angelic.
coincidentally, is the most significant officialdoms associated to the subject of ufology, which goes unheard very often.
Which is
the naval.
Naval, yeah.
The naval.
Well, that's it. Because as I intimated earlier on, the word classical comes from classicus. These are all etymologies related to the naval. So the naval tradition is classical and it's classified, and it's based on class, which is your bloodline.
Yes.
I.e., a human bloodline, or are you an angelic bloodline? And the angelic bloodline represent themselves with the family shield. The shield, oplon, a shield, is related in the Greek to pleon, which is a ship, boat, or a vessel. So the shield itself is indicative of this angelic vessel.
Yes.
As we said earlier.
Common terms of,
exactly, which was used in the ancient world too.
That's right. I mean, I've done a number of lectures. I get asked to do lectures on sort of UFOs, and one very popular one is the one I often give is UFOs throughout the years, throughout the ages.
Right. Okay.
And it represents a visual record of
UFOs
right from probably thousands of years ago, to right through to the possible future.
Yeah.
Which people don't often, when you go and look at that lecture, they probably think afterwards you never realise that they may have already may have been here, because people always like to ask that question. Now, do you think they're still here, or have they left?
Yeah.
I sort of know. Well, I kind of just don't think that they've
just always been here.
Yeah, just think we're kind of probably new ones on the block. But it's taken me some time to transition the field of the study of the paranormal into my works with the ufological, and they do go. Probably not many people will know that, but they do go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think
it's just a matter of knowing how to interlink them. And once they do, believe me or not, they fit like a glove. They really do. And I think we are moving more and more into those areas.
Because the quantum mechanics and spooky particles themselves.
I know, we're finding about the Heisenberg principle, where we know that certain atoms will react differently because we're looking at them.
Yeah.
And just because we look at them, we get a different result from them. They act differently.
Consciousness impacts on this.
Exactly. So, what are we really not aware of? We are very extremely limited. The human senses are extremely limited. And that's another devolution, you might say, from the ape days. But it's encouraged me to write, a lot of different things. And of course, went on to the fourth book, which was just about the Rochdale Poltergeist case. Okay. A book dedicated just to that one case, because it was a profound case about water formings that took place. We hear about water, energy formings and manifestations in poltergeist infestations.
Is water common amongst
Water is probably the one most common, even though there has been some occurrences of mud, dirt, excrement and blood on a few occasions reported around the world, but water seems to be the most popular manifestation.
And it tends to materialise out of thin air.
Yeah, what is interesting is sometimes before the next event happens, that puddle of water will disappear, so it seems to be utilising energy. They are very resourcely.
From the water?
Yeah,
or is the water a product of it?
It could be. We don't know if it would seem to quite quickly disappear.
Yeah,
just as it did appear.
Right.
But maybe it's just like it's a utilisation of energy that's creating the manifestations.
Yeah.
People talk about apports and asports. In poltergeist phenomena, there's things such as things that suddenly disappear or suddenly arrive. Sometimes when they suddenly arrive, they feel warm to the touch, or maybe there's some type of molecular manipulation going on there, like rubbing your hands together, friction, atoms.
And is this targeted usually towards one individual?
Usually within, yes. Usually.
So if that individual moves out of the house, does it follow them?
In many occasions it does. It's like haunted people as opposed to a haunted location.
Right.
So this is where they intrinsically fall into this line of poltergeist infestations. Sometimes objects said to disappear.
Right.
We know they're very resourceful. They are absolutely resourceful. So they don't like to, we really look into the subject. If you go onto the internet and look poltergeist, they're everywhere. Yeah. YouTube's full of them. Poltergeist, it would let us believe there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
But in 33 years, 3 cases, that tells it all. And I've been out there in the field. I've done 1,000 cases over the years. And when I come across 3, I would suggest, yes, they are an infestation of poltergeist. Yeah. They're very short-lived. Yeah. It's a completely different type of phenomenon than the haunting conditions. And
because the word means annoyed. Yeah.
Very noisy.
Noisy spirit.
They have a pattern of events.
Yeah.
There's a progressive pattern of events. Audible phenomena.
Right.
Object manipulation. manifestation, apparitional levels, physical interaction, and onwards to psychological disturbances. There is a progression order always with poltergeist infestations, right through into the demonic section, which is kind of a different story altogether.
I mean, generally with the poltergeist, does it go in stepping stones, right from...
Always.
So it gradually, progressively gets worse?
Yes.
And then does it just stop, or does it continue?
It burns itself out. Unless it reaches its target.
Stephen was asked, there's a connection between poltergeist and light phenomena and stuff, but I remember Paul Devereaux suggested that the Boiler Rectory haunting upon the event was actually tied it to geological...
a lot of it was. However, there is a footprint of phenomena there, which has been reported for thousands of years, believe it or not, long before Boiler Rectory was even in our location.
It just seems to contradict the idea of following if there's an attachment to a human being.
Phenomena deals with energy.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with energy, that energy can come from geological sources,
also
man-made sources.
It's using that, utilising energy.
It's just a utilisation.
So,
of
however,
energy.
when the human being who's got the attachment for it, then it moves. It just uses. If it goes somewhere with no energy, maybe it manifests in a lot less degree or something.
That's it. It would seem to be that it's all about energy and what is around that can utilise it. You know, sometimes there are certain things that take place in environments that leave footprints and things, but we do know that with poltergeist infestations, they're very short-lived. It would seem that the maximises on that energy as much as it possibly can. If you want to look at the people that are adversely affected by poltergeist disturbances, it's mostly people which are families, difficult times, going financial problems, maybe family issues, you know, slightly deprived living conditions. Why is it? Why is that? Because it breeds a certain amount of vexation and trouble and upset in their life, this unsettlement which there's an attraction to. Because it's easy to get hooks in straight away and create next further vexation. So it's about survival, it's about gaining what they want. And you can utilise that. It's fantastic when you've got poltergeist phenomena taking place because it can be very intelligent. It can interact with you, you know. But you have to be fast on it. You have to be work fast because it's only short-lived phenomena.
So what happened in the Rochdale case?
We had to have the family relocated.
Right.
The phenomena followed them though for about 4 weeks, and then it diminished with a new home.
Right.
The house was left fallowed, as what we refer to as fallowing. This is when we were working with city councils and things. So
it's left empty for a while.
Yeah, it was over a year, and it's all completely void of any electrical input into that house as well. So in other words,
has anyone moved in?
Yes, they did, and we did a special survey which asked certain questions, which the answers that they would have helped us determine if the phenomena is still taking place there without even their knowledge.
Yeah.
So they weren't aware of the history?
No.
Because you don't want to infer that there is a poltergeist there, otherwise
because that
invalidates the study.
Therefore it is, that's just a problem.
Is it still there, or is it moved?
No, it diminished. It never returned. The family are happy. And I've only done 3 cases, but you'd expect that they're all over the place. But there's a pattern of events. Poltergeist phenomena, pattern of events. Hauntings, translocational, localised, and residual. You know, if it's directly associated to the environment. You know, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a recording. Are they really hauntings? I've always argued that point. What is a haunting? Oh, people are going, it's a bit of a grey area. Well, hang on a second. Is it a haunting when it's recorded energy and played back? Because that's going to happen if you're there or not there. You know,
like we said, it's dependent on the
individual. Line Hall's funeral procession at Line Hall in Disley in Stockport. The people that report the apparitions see no top of the horse-drawn carriage that carried his coffin. This apparition is supposed to be seen. The top of the horse's heads are missing.
Right.
You know, I believe the energy only rises up from the ground a certain height.
That's interesting.
It's an energy. And it's utilised, again, in the same way as a screen on the television, but you just listen to the top part. You didn't behead horses in those days.
No, but it's quite interesting because my brother, his former partner, she took a photograph of these deer running across the road, but there were no deer, and I think they were missing a head, or they were missing part of the deer.
Yeah. How are we supposed to know if we saw that in its entirety it'd be real or not?
Yeah.
We wouldn't know, would we? We could go every day through, every day of the year and see something and not even know.
But that's like what you were saying earlier in the interview about people crashing into objects that don't exist, but doing it over and over and over again. So, is there an imprint, or is there a crossover between different time zones? It
could be. I mean, I've always argued the point. Well, how are we supposed to know the different? If you had an experience in an old castle and you saw a knight walking past in his armour, have you seen a ghost, or have you slipped out of time to
exactly.
the location.
Yeah.
You know, it's all different.
And it almost seems like some ghosts are playbacks and other ghosts are
interactive to the environment.
Yeah.
Well, if they recognise you, interact with the environment that
Yeah.
you're in, you'd say that's classed as a kind of a haunting, a little bit local, or
Right.
you know, or not. If it's a residual phenomena, like recorded events, that might just be something that's imprinted.
Yeah, I've got a question here in terms of physical ghosts. I mean, ghosts that look real, solid, flesh and blood. What's the percentage of that? Do you come across those type of cases?
Yeah, a ghost is supposed to be of a figure of a person, and an apparition is anything but that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you get a lot of physical ghosts? Just because I've only seen
extremely rare.
I've only seen one ghost, and that was a physical ghost.
I've never seen a ghost, to be honest with you. Well, I may have done, but I'm not too sure. But then I have to count out my perceptions at the time. But I could have hand on heart, I'd probably say for absolutely I can't prove enough evidence to say I have. There are people that reported that, but for me, it's about if that can happen, then the energies must be extremely.
Yeah. Well, the person had died just that after. With my case, it had been a teacher.
I don't think it happened. I think it can happen. I just don't think it happens as regular as people make it out to be.
Yeah, just because I know reading at least psychics seem to. Some psychics appear when they see ghosts that they appear to be physical and real to the point that they can't tell the difference.
Yes. Some people see them as
as they are.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's just down to perception. I think people will experience things in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this sort of word divination. It applies to 364 different forms of divination.
Yeah.
If you're not reading tea leaves,
or
crystal ball reading, palm reading, you know, phrenology, reading the moles on your foot, you know, whatever they're doing, they're tapping into the same source by numerous different ways.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's exactly the same method throughout psychics, mediums, and sensitives, that they tap into the same source, but their own comfortable method of doing so.
Yeah. But this is like, in terms of what we were talking about earlier, about pattern recognition, pareidolia. But anyway, I know from studying the Greeks that they were obsessed about patterns and pattern recognition, and they saw that pattern itself fed into the pattern of reality and into the pattern of nature.
There's patterns all over.
But this is also fits into the dream, because the pattern of the dream, which is another level of consciousness, is displayed within the physical reality, and that itself has ramifications upon the soul pattern of the individual.
You even started discovering that in frequencies within the brain.
Right.
You know, the oscillating frequencies, how the eye oscillates. I mean, even our eyes oscillate at certain frequencies. You know, so everything, there's different frequencies and things that we're learning that fit well with other things, and are devising certain methods. And it's surprising what's around us. Yeah. You know, that we wouldn't be aware of. But the study is tremendous in paranormal and ufological. Is equally just as tremendous. Yeah. It can be a bit of a handful dealing with both. The final book that I wrote was from Seattle, when I went twice this year. Yeah. On investigation. It's supposed to have been.
Sorry, what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is House of Fine Whispers, and
where did the title come from?
Because it's an unusual name. And like I said, I was writing books, very analytical. Right. I talked to a friend when I was doing the Watchdog podcast. Okay. She said, "Steve, this is Jenny Ashford. She's a horror writer. She's known in America. And she said, Steve, you can't write a book like this. It's too analytical. It's like writing a field report, like you said earlier." And I said, "Oh, right. I don't know how to write any other way. I've been doing this same thing for too long, writing the same way." He says, "Well, you know, you've got no emotions, man. Put some emotions to it." I said, "Well, I don't get scared.
Right.
I don't. Nothing bothers me about
the audience wants to be taken on a journey."
Exactly. She said, "Right, you write it, give it to me, and we go through it." Yeah. So we did. And we did this sort of Watchdog podcast case. She did a fantastic job, because I read it. I didn't get it, to be honest with you. I looked at it and thought, okay, all right. She's all right. She put a bit of injection of fear in there, which I really may not add, but she says, "You're stone-faced you are, you know, you've got to show some emotion, because you won't take them on the same path, the reader." Yeah, yeah. So I let her do that, and it worked out very well. So we did the same for House of Fire and Whispers, and I pretty much compiled the book, and it was great working together on that, because she injected that bit of, you know, the emotion. So
you've got your rationality and your logical scientific mind combined with the mind of somebody who can tell and convey a story.
As a story, that's it. And it did work very well. And we were there twice this year on the investigation. It was huge amounts of publicity were involved in this case. And the truth of it was, I went over there to prove it wasn't so. I wanted it to be like that, to be honest, because it wasn't America's most controversial paranormal home.
Right.
You know, I probably would have fallen in line with the TV show Ghost Adventures and went into the house, and they said they couldn't find anything and believed it was hoaxing going on.
Right.
And I probably would have followed suit with that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, okay.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those things. But it had so much media interest. It was a win-win for me.
Yeah.
If I find a rational explanation, great. And if I don't and it's something paranormal, great.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm not going to miss up on this opportunity. Well, I got there expecting nothing to be taking place, and boy was I wrong. There was a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount of phenomena taking place. The most I've ever documented and obtained, ever, in all my investigations in one location. It's only 10 years old.
Right.
And it was built in an area, it was the only house out of 70 houses on a housing estate.
Yeah.
Well, had a pre-existing dwelling underneath on where it sat.
Okay.
Which was an old log cabin. Just, is it coincidence? I don't know.
Right.
But we couldn't find out a cause. There was poltergeist, infestation type experiences, disturbances taking place.
Right.
But it was a haunting. It was both. Okay. So it would seem that there is no definite line.
Yeah.
You know, when we learn in the paranormal fields that there's hauntings and it's poltergeist.
And the two are separate fields.
And the two, yeah, well, this was not. This was a combination of both within one.
Yeah.
Because we found out the incidents were taking place prior to the guy who lived there, Keith Linder.
Right.
To the previous tenant and the previous tenant before that.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of the house was open to anybody to live there. It's only 10 years old.
Yeah.
Was it built over 8 Native American burial grounds? Very possible.
Yeah.
There were a lot of the houses were. You know, it's not exactly a big issue over there.
Yeah.
Digging for. They're actually doing it right now. They're doing it when I was there on another section 2.5 miles away.
Right.
You know, laying the land ready for building houses.
Yeah.
And you know, for over here it's probably a big issue. Over there, there's we've hit a bone. Guy comes out, identify it, Native American, dig it up, move it, build on.
Right.
And I think it's differently dealt with over there. But we didn't find any evidence of that. But and yet there could have been that taking place.
And what was the apparitions? What were the nature?
They were Irish. We've put all the vocal responses. A lot of them were Irish accents, and I'm trying to figure out why are we in Irish accents.
Right.
We're in Seattle. Turns out through research.
Is this the voice phenomenon?
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
Irish. Turns out from the research that would seem that Irish in the thousands were employed to go over to Seattle, cut down the forest to make way for housing developments. What they didn't kind of tell these guys from Ireland was, and by the way, this is where the Native Americans live, and of course it was their home and land, and they fought furiously for it. And there were war and skirmishes and many, many deaths.
Okay.
And a lot of Irish were slaughtered in the hundreds by these Native Americans. And we got a lot of Irish, and I didn't know why we're getting Irish accents until we did the research. That kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
We didn't get Native Americans though, that was interesting. But we got a lot of stuff that took place there. And to me, it was probably one of the most prolific cases I've been involved in.
What did these voices say? Were there a pattern to what they were saying?
Some of them were direct responses to questions. Many of them were random responses. But you can definitely very clear Irish accents, very clear and plentiful. They were very interactive.
Yeah.
They were very intelligent. You know, it's funny when you a lot of people consider why are spirits? Why do they think they're dumb? Why did he go into a place and go, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we'll see what we capture? They're listening. You know, they can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, they clearly could do with ours because over the video recorders and equipment that we were doing, we had audible invasion over them.
Yeah.
We were saying, it's a camera. What is that? And, you know, one voice, really unusual, from the kitchen, not from the kitchen, from the bathroom, said, image capturing device. What's an image capturing device? What a reference. No, it's a night cam. It's a night cam. No, it's not a night cam. It's a task cam. It's not a night cam. They're trying to identify the equipment. They could evade it.
Yeah.
They could evade equipment easily if they wanted to. But they were everywhere, all around us. They were very inquisitive as to what we were doing.
Why are they making themselves known or communicating to certain individuals?
Well, we did have Don Phillips with us, who was a catalyst, of course, so that obviously assisted the situation.
Yeah.
But They were plentiful.
Yeah.
Plentiful. In a 10-year-old building. Beautiful house.
Right.
But when we did investigation, we say we do top to bottom. We do really do top to bottom.
Yeah.
We went to the loft. We went under the crawl space. No one went under the floor.
Yeah.
You know, this is 280 square feet.
Right.
I lost him for 20 minutes. You know, and all I could hear is puffing and panting somewhere around the floor somewhere.
Right.
Every 10, 15 minutes I heard a little puff and pant over there.
Right.
So eventually he comes up there and he says, I've seen shadows down there and I've got recordings. I said, have you? And we got some recordings and they were Irish and saying different things, and we ended up with hundreds of different vocal responses. Apart from physical phenomena that took place there. And what was interesting, something shot off the wall upstairs, landed on the floor. The recording equipment caught it, registered 63 decibels on a recording device from the fall of this object off the wall upstairs when there's nobody up there. The replication of it, was significantly less. It was only about 17 or 18 decibels. So, phenomena can mimic the sound of an object falling and amplify it, or it threw it to the ground with force. One of the two is not a normal natural falling off process.
No, it's not. It's unusual.
So, we learned a lot from that. So we put a lot of scientific data into the book, into the last book we did, which was the House of Fire and Whispers. It's doing quite well. It's out on Amazon and like Rochdale Poltergeist is, and it's also out available in Kindle. It's also they're both available also in Japanese, I believe now. From what
translated in Japanese.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they've done a lot of work for the Japanese over the years.
Right.
Television, Nippon, Dragon, Fuji.
Yeah.
I do a lot of TV work for them, so it was good to have a.
Have you been over to Japan?
I haven't actually. No, they always come over to me or
Okay.
take me somewhere. I mean, they took me to America,
right,
to do this documentary for Dragon TV this year. So
have you got new books coming out?
2 working on at the moment. One is my first ufological book. Even it's strange, I've never actually wrote a book on ufology. Funny enough.
Is this on your own field research?
It is. Yeah, it's simply about cases that are of interest regarding collisions.
Oh, okay.
People that have reported hitting something or an object's hit them.
Yeah.
And there's some really fascinating reports, and I thought it'd be a really good reference book to document all those type of incidents, those physical incidents together.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that, and I'm also working on a paranormal, a concise paranormal investigator's guide. In other words, how to deal with the specifics of on-site investigation, as opposed to looking at the whole. There are lots of books out there, how to be a ghostbuster and ghost hunter, things like that.
Yeah.
But this is about what to do. You know, I mean, a lot of people don't consider the witnesses.
Right.
You know? Oh, we're going to investigate this house. Okay, and what happens when you get something? Oh, we're going to record it and film it. Right, then what? Well, we're going to put it out on the internet. I said, right, and then what? Well, I said, what about the witness? There's still that there with a problem. You know, this is the problem. It is a big issue because they think they're going to get some help, and sometimes they're only there.
Do you resolve the problem, or
we
do you
try
just
as best we possibly can, and when we can utilise people like Don Phillips and other people like
psychics primarily?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, you know, if there are ones which I would consider legitimate, I've always stayed away from using them basically because I always thought they muddied the waters. Because how do you prove someone's authentic?
Yeah,
you know, but we know trial and tested.
Yeah.
That one, and it's not about. He can record on site there and then in front of us and get the responses. There's been occasions when he said, "Is anybody here?" and the response came back and said, "It's a load of rubbish." It turned out the person who got it out there had faked it and admitted it eventually.
Right.
But it's strange to have. If it is a spirit, can tell you that it isn't real because it's a spirit.
It's reading somebody's mind in order to give you that piece of information.
It sounds incredible, doesn't it? But
I mean, with Don, does he ask the spirit politely, or does he just throw it out literally?
He asks them politely. You know, he asks them.
Yeah.
He sometimes he knows. You know, prior to even asking the question. But like I say, it's clairsentient and clairaudient as well. So it's a great advantage tool to be able to use on investigations.
Yeah, because of his sensitivity.
But we just don't know what we're going to get, you know, and it's quite incredible, but it's a constant. And we do want to move into further fields. We're looking at this moment in time, Phenomena Project, are stretching out their arms and trying to bring in physicists and academics who will say, okay, there it is, you tell us how it's happening, because we need to know. Because we've done as much as we can.
Yeah,
you know?
Because I agree with you. I just don't think that science is really taking it.
No, we really
seriously.
do need that help and support. But I don't think we'll get. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if we'll get it. What we do want is it to be accepted as it should be for the media. In the media.
Yeah.
You know, put it out as it is.
Yeah.
Don't strip it away. Don't make it something commercialise it and make it something funny for entertainment purposes, because this is not funny.
No,
this is science. This could be a significant breakthrough,
Mm.
and it needs to be dealt with in that manner.
Yeah.
And of course, people can find. We've done the first series. First season's done.
Right.
We've got a 1.5 hour special for the American Seattle case.
Okay.
We're working on season 2.
So that's going on TV, is it?
We start pitching this in January.
Okay.
We already had some fantastic interest. I mean, even from Discovery Channel International said it was an amazing. They said they thought the subject in the field of paranormal research was saturated until they saw it, and that's a great comment to get from Discovery International. Right. And so we do know we've got the cocktail.
You've got the material.
We've got the material.
You've got the evidence.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So we know that we will do it.
Yeah.
Of course, we've already been told it will.
Yeah.
Prior to it happening, anyway. So that's helpful. It's helpful. So yeah, it will be. It will get there.
Yeah.
We do know that. So it's just accumulating. Just adding as much of the more evidence as we can. You can find more information on that on its dedicated website for that phenomena project.tv.
Right.
And of course, as you mentioned just briefly earlier, when it fell out in the middle with Phenomena magazine.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this.
Well,
this
it's 10 years. It's coming up to its 10 years now.
And how many magazines have you?
We're on to.
To approximate.
Over 100 or something.
100 or something.
Yeah,
isn't it the world's largest online magazine?
It is. It's the world's largest e-zine of its kind.
Right.
We're in 12 countries
at
this moment in time. Trying to get into Africa at the moment. We're working on Africa at the moment, which is our.
Are you the senior editor on this magazine?
I'm the director.
You're the director.
Yeah.
Do you still write articles?
No. I just kind of overlook and make sure things. Do you have two different? We have more than one editor. We have a number of editors, because we have standalone ones which are printed in their own country, like the Spanish editor, which is Darius Fernandez. We have Brian Allen, which is our UK editor.
Right. And you established this magazine then?
Yes. It came out just as a group magazine initially.
Right.
Just for our own members.
A few researchers.
Yeah, that's all. And there was big demand for it, so we got more and more, and contacts where we knew, and kind of took birth to the Phenomena magazine as we know now. And
do you think that's helped to promote your career in terms of in the TV work and? Or is that a separate compartment?
I think it is a separate compartment, because it doesn't seem to come from that direction. It seems to come from other work you've done in the field.
Right.
Well,
you see, it's difficult really to know, because you've done a lot of work.
Well, you get the details from radio,
your TV work, radio.
TV, I've lectured all over the world, in different places. So they get the details from that, or the books I've wrote. My name don't appear so much in the magazine. It's more. I kind of overlook the whole procedure.
Yeah.
But Brian Allen, who's a great job. He's a dedicated researcher and investigator in the field. Right. He was also the editor of Paranormal magazine, which was a shot by magazine at some stage, and went on for a number of years. And he was the editor there. Did a great job. And when Paranormal magazine stopped functioning, it folded.
Yeah.
I approached Brian and said, I would love to have you on board, Brian, and of course he came over to us and never looked back since. He's a fantastic job. Right. And since then we've just seen its growth. I mean, it's a free magazine. We don't charge for it. Yeah. It was about delivering the right type of information to the people that want it.
At the right time.
And it wasn't. We didn't just want to focus on UFOs, even though we do a lot on UFOs. Yeah. We want to focus on other things: the paranormal, the strange, the profound, the unusual, supernatural, cryptozoology, and whatever. Yeah. Because for me, this world, it consists of everything. Yeah. It's all kind of the people I meet in the subject. I know people in all the fields of study, depending if it's ancient aliens. I mean, we had a very big event in London at the BAFTA. We held it at the BAFTA, Princess Anne Theatre in October, which was the Stellar Citizen Award. It is the most prestigious international award within the subjects of all things profound, unusual, anomalous phenomena. Right. And the first one was dedicated to Eric von Däniken for his lifetime achievement, to be honest with you. It's 50 years since believe it or not, I can't believe it's 50 years, of Chariot to the Gods. He's got a new Chariots of the Gods on its way next year.
What's that called?
Chariots of the Gods. He's got the new version.
Oh, you mean what updated?
There's a lot of more information in there, and a lot of new.
Is that new information or information he edited out from the?
No, new information. There's a lot of new information, and apart from that, there's a franchise team who are on board now, which we've been working with.
Yeah.
In regards, the Chariots of the Gods TV series, the movie, the theme parks.
Yeah, I'd heard about the theme parks. Do they actually exist?
They exist, absolutely exist.
Right, okay.
I can't go into it too much, but we're currently at this moment in time, because like I said to you when you arrived today, that I used to take 2-3 months off in projects.
Yeah.
One of those projects is working with them in regards these theme parks, and yes, there's going to be some big, very large, significant changes in the development and assistance in studies and fields that people are interested in, especially not just this country but others as well.
Right.
And that's going to be all part of this franchise company.
Right.
Which we're doing it very successful, doing very well. And of course the event went very well in BAFTAs, and it put the Stellar Citizen Award on the map.
Right.
We're going to be doing it again next year, in October the 15th, 2017. The process of how people will be nominated will come through, but it's going to cover all sections. It's not just UFOs, but it's even mind, body, spirit, and of course the paranormal side of things. Yeah. It's going to cover the whole section. So
it's the equivalent to the Oscars, but in our
pretty much. And we want to show our gratitude for the work. I mean, people have spent their whole lives doing this, and and influenced so many people that a lot of people won't be doing what they were doing. I mean, I met up with Giorgio Tsoukalis from the Ancient Aliens series in London, and he was just saying, Eric von Däniken kind of put him on this path, and of course he's been so successful since.
Yeah. And what is he doing at the moment? He's still doing more TV work?
He's still doing television work with Prometheus, with Ancient Aliens, so he's got another season.
Oh right, I didn't realise that they were still producing.
Yes, they're still producing. They've got another season.
Okay.
And then we'll see. We're not too sure, but I'm in touch, so we'll find out. But
have you appeared on Ancient Aliens?
I haven't. No, not in Ancient Aliens. No. I've done a number of shows like that. But
which TV shows have you done?
Oh, crikey, blimey. Oh God, there's so many. Well, of course, I do a lot for work from the Fright Nights, National Geographic TV shows, Wild X-Files, Paranatural.
Is this in terms of being an advisor or in terms of
actually on the
show?
TV? Both. Actually advising and actually on the show, sometimes hosting.
Right.
What on Earth was another one. I did some work for the regular TV shows that we see on television, and the writing from behind the scenes. Yeah. On the subject of the paranormal, UK Ghost Hunters, not the American version. They did actually a British one. Right. It's been all sorts of things for years. Just little trimmings, bits and bobs. Most of the time, they contact me and say, "Steve, do you know this? Do you know about that? Can you write about this? Can you tell us about this? We want you part of the show." Right. I've turned some shows down because it just didn't suit me. I didn't want to. Just in terms of you didn't agree where they were taking the material. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't right. He wasn't done in a certain way it should be. It was taken, was taking the mickey a bit from it. So I didn't want to get involved in that. It's quite a serious subject. It should be taken seriously. Yeah. I understand there's an element of trying to put something in it to keep the interest into the viewers. Yeah, of course you want it entertaining, but you also want it to be taken seriously as well. Yeah. And that led me into being a spokesperson. Just all sorts of things. Hammer Productions, or Hammer House of Horror, which I know as Hammer Productions now, contacted me a number of, it's about 3 or 4 years ago now, 3 years ago, and they were creating a film called The Quiet Ones, and wanted to loosely base maybe against the character on parapsychological research in the film, and they wanted me on board as well as the official spokesman. Yeah. So that was the film came out, The Quiet Ones. Did you star in that? I just no, I didn't star in it. But if you actually look at the guy that's in it, there's a lot of information. There's a lot about himself, which is kind of I think they kind of envisioned the same person. An amalgamation of and of course I did a lot of official spokesman stuff for that. Right. Who were the Quiet Ones? We don't know who the quiet ones were. That was the thing. But it was about parapsychological research and about how he couldn't get the funding and took a test out of the unit to a hired location of his own to conduct paranormal research into regarding one girl who was having some profound experiences, and it got a bit hair-raising. Right. So, but it was a good film. It did quite good. It still kept that element of horrorness in there, should they say. It is, after all, Hammer. Went on then to Fox contacted me. I want to be the spokesperson for Outcast, the TV series. They've just shown season 1.
What is Outcast?
It's a television series, American TV series, which is regarding demonic possession of people within a small community town in America in modern day.
So a dramatisation.
It's a dramatisation. And they wanted me to come on board with that as a spokesperson, so I did that. And I've recently just become the spokesperson for Travis, the new Travis Walton documentary movie.
Yes, I saw that online when we did some research.
It's very good documentary. And of course I was with Travis at this year.
Oh yeah.
In Holford.
How did that change his life?
Oh, profoundly.
Right.
But it's interesting because it's interesting that people view it one-sided.
Yeah.
And when pressed, Travis might even say now, and he has done, that maybe that they didn't accidentally do anything to him, and that they were trying to revive him.
Right.
You know, when they had him on wherever they had him.
Yeah.
And of course he panicked, not realising what the situation was. But maybe they were actually doing some good.
Yeah.
Maybe that approaching the object was not the best thing to do, and he put himself into a dangerous situation where something happened where they did try and revive him, and he survived because of that, actually.
Yeah.
It's all down to your viewpoint, because Travis's viewpoint's changed somewhat over the years.
How has that changed?
Well, you know, at first it was very much I was abducted and they tried to harm me. I woke up, these things around me, I grabbed something, tried to threaten them off, and I just wanted to get out of there, panicking, don't know what they were after me for. To maybe it was my own fault, I went a bit too close to this vehicle and somehow I ended up getting zapped in its field or something, and then next minute they probably did maybe, because they talked to the guys that saw this happen, he'd get zapped and he said there's no way he would have survived that. And then we picked him up, threw him down like a rag doll. He said he looked dead. And they went back there, he wasn't there. But if that was the case, then they revived him. You know, and of course he may have them to thank for that. So his views and opinions may change over the years.
Was there any follow-up to this in terms of did they return, or has he had any unusual experiences as a result of this initial?
Not so much, really. It tells you what is probably the most significant piece of information about what's come out in the latest Travis movie documentary is, like they did with many other places, is they went back to that location, which is kept secret. And the reason why it's kept secret, the location, is because you get a lot of people going up there and damaging the location and area and stuff like that. And he's a conservationist as well. And he loves the forest land. But some of the trees closest to where the object was were taken down, and there were strange accelerated growth patterns within the trees, which you can see evidence of in the ring process of the trees as well. Since the incident of 1975, for the following 8 years after the incident, was an accelerated growth pattern of those trees, only on those trees closest to where the object was. And you could actually clearly see that in photographs of the actual trees.
That's kind of consistent with the French report with
yes,
the
of course.
province.
And it's the same thing you find sometimes in crop formations, crop formations, especially in living goods work.
Which is often an indication that the crop formation is part of a genuine phenomenon.
So it's all, I'm always busy, always doing something, lecturing, writing. We have a new website out, which is the ZoharStargate.com.
Okay.
It's part of the Zohar Entertainment Group, which we're part of, where we deal with events such as the Stellar Citizen Award, but we also have the Stellar Database. Now, for years, people have wondered, why haven't we got one place on the website where we can find everything we need to really know? How much hunting and digging do you really have to do to find anything within the subjects of ufology and paranormal?
So you're trying to make a comprehensive database?
What we've done is we've took something like, we looked at some of the most recent ones like we have on the internet movie database and other things like that. And we thought, okay, wouldn't it be great if we had something like that, but more? And now we're starting to come together. What it is we have the Stellar Database, which is devised for the subjects of the paranormal, ufological, mind, body, spirit, you name it, anything unusual and profound. And it brings together those people from all over the world with their products, with their services, with their books, information, what they do, how to contact them. Right. Then there's also an extensive databases of photography and video and documents. Right. You don't need to go hunting all over the internet to find magazines. They're there. Yeah. Documents, photographs, you name it.
So it's a centralisation.
It's a centralisation of the whole subjects all coming together. And by doing so, that means that it's intelligently interactive. It utilises algorithms, so it knows exactly where to go, where you need to go to find it. Yeah. By just clicking on this, something else highlights. Yeah. Or that person's wrote a book with that person who's a lecturer, and that person's lecturing at this event next Sunday. This is how it's going to work. It's going to be a place now where people can find products as well and sell their services to the general public. So it's going to be a place where everything.
So does that mean that if, let's say, I was put on this database, then I would automatically be connected with Anthony Beckett? Then
we'd all be connected in some way. It's very, very clever how it's going to be produced. It's costing us a huge amount of money.
Okay. I understand. And where is that funding coming from?
Coming from ourselves. We're doing everything we can possibly do to put into it. Yeah. But
luckily, I guess it will generate.
We have some great Russian guys team behind us. Right. We've won 23 international awards for their websites. The first time when it was the first beginning section of it was launched. Yeah. I think we got something like 4 or 5 international awards within the first 14, 15 days.
So I'm going to check this site out then.
It's coming together. We're getting there. Yeah. It's.
Is it complete or is it just?
No. There will be a crowdfunding section to it, right? Which will be.
So it's ongoing. It's an ongoing.
Yeah, we're in development now. It's actually up and running.
So we can see it.
You can see the fundamental parts of what it's going to consist of. Okay. And what we're going to do, we're going to have to introduce it in sections because it's just a workload. It's involved. Yeah. You can well imagine. Yeah. But it's got the foundations there for it, and how it'll all work is all integrated.
So you mean very shortly, when let's say I wanted to look at the Travis Walton case, I'm not going to go on Wikipedia anymore. It's going to be we're going to go on Zohar.
You can't trust Wikipedia because anyone can write it. No, it's going to be going to the horse's mouth. We've always argued this point. If you want the information, go to the guy who wrote it. Go to the guy who delivered it. Don't talk to Joe Blogs who says he said I said. Yeah. Because then you start getting away from the truth. Raw data is always the most important. Yeah. So we'll take you to the person. We'll take you to the grandfather of ufology, Stanton T. Freeman. He will tell you about his work in the field of Roswell. Or Daryl Sims or whatever, whoever it'll be. The good thing is that over 33 years I've built up a lot of contacts worldwide in the peoples within the subject, and that's really good to have because we're going to start off with a development of 1,000 people, right, the most significant 1,000 people within the subjects of these fields, which will be first placed onto the database. And so you can see how they all work together. By clicking on Linda Morton Howell, that you're going to get this guy's book who's talking with Linda at that event next Sunday, and how much your tickets are, and you'll get them at reduced price because they're advertised on our website. So it's going to be something which is really needed for this subject, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the amount of people out there are looking in resources, researching. I know it's taking forever to try and find what.
But is this going to? Do you hope or aspire that this is going to really lead to consolidation within the subject?
I hope so. I want to breach that divide between ufology and paranormal. To be honest with you. Yeah. I am a little bit isolated in the field, I admit. But it's good to have both, I suppose. Yeah. But there's definitely more to grow on there. Yeah. And it's going to do that. It's going to bring those people from. Cultural changes as well. I mean, the cultural aspects of this phenomenon changes drastically depending on which culture you're in.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this a few weeks ago with Philip Mantle and his idea on cultural interpretation, and particularly in terms of how the ufological phenomenon is interpreted is vastly different. So, for example, within some cultures it's very spiritual, other cultures there may be a shamanic aspect to the phenomenon.
The whole website will interact very intelligently by communicating between, for instance, a doctor in metaphysics in India and somebody living around the corner here who wants to do a little bit of work or research or something. It's going to put them in contact. It's going to allow people to be able to do that for the very first time without having to hunt the world for them.
Well, also in the modern developments of computers and translations, now the difference within languages is not so much of a problem either.
No, it isn't. I mean, we've got some really clever equipment being utilised for the website.
To translate.
It does, because there's always language barriers are initially the first thing. But we are breaking them down, and it's finding the right people in the right places around the world. And apart from that, it strings off into other things. There's Stellar Academy. We can help people gain employment in certain areas.
Yeah.
There's training programs. We have something called Stellar University, which is going to be changed to Stellar courses.
Is that going to be institutionalised at a particular place?
Well, of course, no. I mean, we can't...
I know it's just probably online now, but...
It are online courses, because we write the British Investigators Training course. I started that in 1995.
Okay.
It is the most comprehensive courses in the subject of UFO investigation and paranormal research.
Okay.
But we've utilised information. We've contacted the people.
Can we do a degree in ufology? Yeah?
You can't, unfortunately. They just won't. The governments just won't accept it. They say, hey, guys, you not have it done. No way. But we can do the best thing, is that we can provide the most critical and most important information from the people that have spent 30, 40, 50 years in this field researching it, coming from them, providing it in the section in the course, and delivering it to the people that want it. Yeah. It's about getting all the right important information from the right people, sourced together, and delivered in one content. Yeah. It's never about the money. It was about delivering that information to them. And that's why the courses are exceptionally cheap compared to everywhere else, because we can have them printed or digital format. And the good thing is that people can obtain that training. Yeah. It can help them with placement in organisations, establishments, meetups, conferences, those sort of things.
I mean, these courses are... I know in the States I've got a friend, his name's Stefan Boma, and he does a number of different online courses like what you're talking about. So I think what you're saying is that there is an increased need for these type of courses, because in a sense this is a subject and it does really need to be taken seriously and studied properly and understood. And I think that this, in a sense, you're part of what is something which is cutting edge.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of just getting the information out. I mean, most of the people coming from all over the world that want to learn about the subject. For instance, I want to learn how to investigate the UFO phenomena in a professional way. I don't want to just learn about what you do if you how to take a photograph. I want to know all the details about physical trace markings, UFO trigonometry.
Well, in a sense, you have to be like a policeman in a sense, don't you?
There's lots to learn.
Because you don't want to contaminate the site, then you have to take samples, you have to interview the witnesses, you have to show a degree of sensitivity.
Of course, it depends on how far they really want to learn.
Well, even like
but we'll take them to advanced level.
Yeah,
exactly. Because it's more about dealing with the people themselves, I suppose, as well as the phenomena. Yeah. So it goes hand in hand.
Because you see, I don't understand why there isn't a degree course on ufology. Because we have the ability now to critique the subject, which would mean that we could obviously do a degree. I mean, there are degrees in media studies, so why not ufology? Because it is a cultural concept.
And
which can be deconstructed.
You've got to be very careful, because the UK are very stringent in regarding what the courses are classed as a degree level. Because it's got to be classed as the educational act. And if they're not, then we don't want it on there. And you're even going to change names.
So free energy is not going to be on the degree
level. I don't think so. But what is interesting is that the interest in it is growing. Yeah. We did our sponsored our very first free energy and breakthrough energy conference this year in America.
Yeah. I guess they're going to outlaw that out soon, aren't they? It's going to be illegal to say
I'm just thinking how long they're going to survive.
You can't say there's a cure for cancer, so maybe they're going to outlaw free energy.
I don't know how long they'll do. Yeah. But we do quite well with sponsorships. I mean, Phenomena Magazine is the leading location for sponsoring events and conferences of this type of thing. And we try and work as many people as we possibly can. And I work alongside another good researcher, is Gary Hasseltine. He also has a magazine, UFO Truth magazine.
Yes, he has a database on policemen.
Exactly, Prufos is very, very good work, and it's very dedicated. So he's it's a very
and it's very specialised,
isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah. And I work alongside with Gary, helping him with his magazine. We work together. And the conferences, delivering information and evidence and how to. What I like about Gary's conferences is that sometimes they're a little bit educational as well. For people, you kind of like to tell them how you go about doing it, as opposed from here it is.
Yeah, his lectures on how to gather evidence.
They're very good. They're really good. But for me, it's about working with all these people, because I want what they want. I want to be able to keep this subject going, so that we've still got the interest in 20, 30 years' time.
Is there going to be disclosure?
I don't think so.
No, I totally agree with you there. I just don't see.
So. I think I don't think.
I think well.
The only reason we'll get disclosures when he have to.
Yeah. Well, I think actually, to be honest,
we're in it.
We're in it. We're already part of the disclosure,
yeah.
but we are disclosing.
That's it.
So we're part of the movement, but it's not going to come from the state or from the government.
No,
because it's not that it's just been hidden for 50 years. It's been hidden for thousands of years. Go back to the Mystery Science. Go back to the.
They know that.
They know about it. They were burying UFOs
That's
underneath
the small
temples.
secret. The big secrets.
Well, when you begin to deconstruct the symbolism, they were burying this phenomenon under temples. So, and that's where I was saying that this is. For me, anyway, I can see ufology branching off into the occult because.
Oh yeah. Of course, you can't have one without the other, really. If you get into as long as I have, then you will do. Yeah. But there's numerous places you can find out more information on those sort of things. The courses that we do is on stellaruniversity.com. Due to change to stellarcourses.com. But that's you can find it on Zohar Entertainment Group, along with the Stellar Database and Stargate TV is another one, which is a platform for showing videos. People that might be interested in.
So people can just download the videos?
Yeah, or they can just watch them online. But it's a location where they can find dedicated information. We have also special fields of study, such as ancient aliens, or just you want to just learn about that, you just want to look at Gary's lectures. We have a section for just Gary Hasseltine's lectures. Right. And also paranormal side of things. We have Brian Allen, who's our editor.
So have you got poltergeist?
He does poltergeist, paranormal things. All sorts of things, depending on who wants to watch and what their subjects are of interest.
Right, I think we're very much running out of time in terms of how long we've got on the camera. So I really want you to just now, in the next 5 minutes, just sum up anything which you want to tell the public about your organisations.
Okay, there's MAPIT, which was formed in 1974. I'm the chairman. I don't own it. I took over it from the Rees family. David Rees passed away. He was the editor of Skywatch magazine. Okay. And of course, coincidentally, I ended up being the chairman. Right. MAPIT's website is www.mapit.kkk5.org. Okay. It's KK5 because it was 2005 when we put the new website. Right. And it's just different types of investigation processes and information.
Is that just in the Manchester area?
It is. It was Manchester's aerial phenomenon investigation team. Right. But we want to keep the acronym but let people know that we also deal with the paranormal. Okay. SCP, the Scientific Establishment of Parapsychology, is just relocating their website at the moment. Yeah. But it's actually housed under Phenomena Magazine's website at the moment, so temporarily. So we get the time to resolve matters. Yeah. But Phenomena Magazine is www.phenomenamagazine.co.uk.
And those downloads are free, are they? Yeah.
They're free. They come out every month. Yeah. You can download it directly from the website.
How many downloads do you get?
Per year, around about 1.8 million.
Right.
Yeah. Per year, all across the whole board, because we have distributors within other countries. Yeah. So and to be honest with you, it may even be more, but we just don't know. It's just we lose count. We can't. We can't follow the path. Yeah. I keep coming across websites which have got Phenomena Magazine on them. Yeah. And we haven't put them there. So people are putting them on there through traffic, and it happens. So it's exponential. Yeah. PhenomenaProject.tv, which is the television series, definitely worth looking out for that. Okay. Look out for Don Phillips, because
Don Phillips
he's quite phenomenal. Okay. No explanation for some of the things I experienced. Zohar Entertainment Group is where you'll find all the information regarding our Stellar Citizen Award, our upcoming events. Right. How to get involved, the Stellar Database, the courses, the Stargate TV, there's all sorts of things that's on there. So it's a very big franchise. Okay. And about Eric von Daniken's the Chariots of the Gods is coming.
The re-release.
The re-release, the franchise, it's big developments. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing all those developments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for talking to us. Thank you.